Good job. Okay. Meeting will come to order. Time is 6:01 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Here.
Mrs. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Mortensen. Mr. Tadolini.
Here.
Mr. Winsheimer.
Here.
Mr. Chard.
Here. We do have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadolini.
Aye.
Mr. Winsheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadolini.
Aye.
Mr. Winsheimer. Mr. Chard.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business will be celebrations. Mrs. Cody, do you have any celebrations before you want to introduce guests, or?
Absolutely. So this is my favorite part of the whole agenda. So a couple of highlights. We did receive the Counselor Corps grant. Also want to highlight our middle school band program, how well that went on, and our middle school track. And then also our school district archery program. We are blessed with a very strong archery program and had seven students qualify for nationals, which is exceptional. So I want to introduce Catherine Hodgson, who is the head coach, and you want to go ahead and introduce all of our archers.
I'm Catherine Hodgson. I am the head archery coach for the Brush Archery Club that I started, Alex, when you were in fifth grade?
Fifth grade. Yeah.
8 years ago. Alex just graduated yesterday, so she's my first one that went from 5th grade all the way through. So it's kind of cool to have her just graduated and she's here. This is Miranda McCartney. She's my second. She's my assistant coach. All of these kids, and we have 2 others that are actually here. They just didn't. They participated in the state tournament, but they didn't make it to nationals. But I started the program with 10 kids, maybe. And we had 80 kids participate in the state tournament this year. We took 7 to nationals, and we have 3 that are qualified at nationals to go to worlds. So those 3 are also here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we'll be going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, June 5th, 6th, and 7th. I do have a bunch of awards that I want to give them because they're kind of cool. Do you want me to?
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, come on up here.
It would be easier for everyone to hear and see. So right through here, right by Mr. Yake, you can just move that table. Exactly. Excellent.
So I just want to say this was the first year that we had enough numbers in the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level to compete as a team. We've always done individuals. I don't know who I should be looking at. We're in the middle. Can we go this way?
Got me holding that stuff?
And so we competed as a team this year. To compete as a team, you have to have at least 4 of the opposite gender to compete. And we had 24 in the elementary school on the team and 24 on the middle school team. I think the high school we only had 15, 16. We're small because high schoolers get busy with all their other sports. But our elementary team took 3rd as a team this year. And so over there with your elementary friends for a minute. Thanks. So our elementary team took 3rd as a team this year, and those 3 are part of that team. And then our middle school, they also took 3rd as a middle school team, and that would be those 2. And then I have individual awards that came from the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, who sponsors the National Archery in School program. So I'm gonna give those awards now, and then I'll celebrate our 2 state champions.
You can set those
So,
up.
7. Lucy. And I think you're turning inside. I think that's what's inside.
I love that. I want that shirt.
These are awesome.
And then our 2 state champions this year, we went 1-2 in the high school, and we went 1-2 in the elementary school. So Madison took first in the entire state of Colorado, and White Samples took first in the entire state of Colorado for the high school. And then Wyatt Johnson and Alex Hass took second, so. I'm not even gonna, because all of that's in there for you. And then because they are state champions, Mass and Colorado Archery in School program, if you are a state champion, you get a really sweet bow. They order it special. Alex also has hers. She was a state champion, 7th grade, 8th grade? So she has her state champion bow back there. But they are special ordered. You cannot order these online anywhere.
It says right on it, Colorado.
This is Wyatt's.
That's really cool.
Oh, wow.
They
That's
started
awesome.
adding the states so they could identify the nationals.
Wow.
And so they are special ordered, they are their hand when they shoot, so Wyatt's is a right-handed and Maddie's is a left-handed. And then we have Madison, Alex, and Talon all going to Worlds in a couple weeks.
That is cool.
Then we have a bunch of pictures up from our state tournament, our state shoot. It's a virtual shoot, so they'll shoot in Beaver Valley in our own like home court, I guess you could say, as the coaches, and we had a bunch of volunteers that helped because it wouldn't have happened without those volunteers. The kids score themselves, they score each other. We have to take a picture of their scorecard and a picture of their target after each round, and that all gets submitted to the National Archery in School program. Some of the other pictures are just for practice and stuff. Yeah, it's grown. We started with 4 targets. We have 8 regular targets now. We did a GoFundMe last year, and we were able to purchase the 6 3D targets that NAS added, I think the second year when they started doing all the nationals, so they can shoot 3D IDO, International Bow Association. So.
That is awesome. Could we get a picture of all of you with the board? That would be great. With your bows, we want the bows too. If that's
You're gonna hold it for the picture.
back. Down an end, or back.
I'm very sorry.
We'll go back.
It's taller again.
Yes, you will.
You all get to be in the front.
I'll get up here with the kindergarten.
Oh, I like that.
And those are some of my cool archery parents that are You're totally gonna send me that picture, right?
Good job, guys.
Great job.
All of
Congrats.
you, great job.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
That's okay.
No doubt.
I didn't know what you were gonna say.
Actually, even better. Great job. I want to shake everyone's hand, if that's okay. Nice job.
And I'm just gonna leave this last with the middle school one. They can put it in the high school.
Come over here. I'm going to shake your hand. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay.
That's exciting. We're excited to see how it goes in South, is it South Carolina, right, Myrtle Beach?
Yep,
Nice. So you're gonna go to the ocean?
we're staying at a very nice place, aren't we?
Oh, it'll be so much fun. When is that?
The 5th, 6th, and 7th of June.
Oh, nice. And I'll bring it.
No, coming right up.
Thank you for letting us present.
Thank you for coming. Congratulations. Well done.
Does anyone else have any celebrations they'd like to share before we move on?
Just graduation yesterday, that was awesome.
Graduation sounded like it went off without a hitch.
Went really well. Thank you, Mr. Burns and your team. Well done.
It's a big undertaking, so team.
You did a great job. Well done.
I'd just like to touch on the BMS track team again. They won league champions, boys and girls, both 7th and 8th grade, swept it this year. So 120 kids in that program now and growing. And
Impressive.
the high school program's growing as a result. So got a lot of momentum there. It is good.
Exciting.
All right. So next item of business will be a DAC report.
Yeah, let's see, they met Wednesday last week. Some of the Beat Digger Leadership Academy and board elections, they went over some of that. You had a meeting, what'd you have, 3 people show up?
No, we think we had more than that, but yeah, 3 parents.
3 parents that
Mhm.
showed
Mhm.
for that. Then they did go over the calendar, bell schedules, got a storm damage update.
Mr. Tedalini, if you would like to, might tell him why we had such a small show.
Oh, well, it was nice and dark.
We had no electricity.
Yeah, it was good and dark, so we kept it quick. How long were you guys out of power here till?
I'm not sure. By the time I left, it was still off.
It was still off, yeah.
I heard 9 o'clock it was back.
About 9 at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, yeah, they used cell phone lights and technology and whipped right through it. Let's see, then they did the bells and schedules, did get a storm damage update. They talked about doing their officer elections when they come back. They won't meet for the rest of the summer. And that's basically it. They did the responsibilities. You want me to just hit the highlight?
The goals.
Their goals.
The goals. I can pull it up here too.
If you,
There you go. These were the DAX goals for this school year. 24-25 school year.
I think that's not what I have sitting here. Maybe. There it is. The action steps. Define clear roles and responsibilities for all staff positions. Implement a peer observation and instructional coaching program. Begin advertising for the following academic year's positions in winter 2025. Establish and grow your own teacher program to develop local talent. Classified staff need an induction onboard program newly hired classified staff, less than 5 years. Welcome packet, benefit packet as part of new paperwork. DAC will provide oversight and recommendations for fund prioritization to the Board of Education by April 1st, 2025. Action steps form and dedicated DAC budget subcommittee. Conduct regular reviews of each budget iteration during DAC meetings. They will oversee and provide recommendations for the district unified improvement plan, focusing on building trust among the community and stakeholders. And the steps were develop and implement comprehensive communication strategy, highlight and celebrate district success at DAC meetings, review and update the family engagement policy, conduct an annual stakeholder survey to measure trust and engagement. And that's that.
Very good. Marcy, have anything to add from DAC?
No, I think you covered it well. So we were I'll just say we were excited that, they had goals, they met their goals. Key piece was the comp letter and the employees' packet with their contracts. So those were given so that employees understand their full compensation. And celebrated the work on the DAC budget subcommittee and communication. So still work to do, but celebrate the work that's taken place so far. Appreciated everybody that serves on DAC and comes to DAC. It's huge. Takes a lot of time and appreciate it.
Very good, thank you guys. Next item of business, 5.2 NV5 update on TPS HVAC project. Mrs. Cody, would you lead the discussion on the NV5 update?
I would love to. So we had interviews last Wednesday for a design builder for the Thompson Primary School HVAC BEST grant project. And I am recommending, or we are recommending, the interview committee is recommending to the board Buildings by Design and G2. So here's the timeline. I'm just going to pass these out. There you go. And I feel like they will service the community well. They did a nice job interviewing and provided nice proposals, so we're excited to work with them and excited to move forward with our HVAC process. And so we have Andy with NV5, that is our owner's rep. He is here this evening. And he's going to tell us about the next steps.
Thank you, Marcia. Good evening, Board of Education. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again. So, upon approval tonight of the design build firm, we're going to enter into some additional procurements necessary for the scope of services needed to get the HVAC project completed. The next one is going to be material testing and inspection. It is not a critical path activity in terms of they have to be on board right now. It's probably a couple months down the road, so it's not really pertinent to tonight's decision, but I just thought I would tell you there are a couple more procurements that take place. Once we have the contract executed, which is teed up and ready to go out via DocuSign tomorrow, upon approval tonight, we're going to enter into schematic design. That's when we'll do some programming. They'll be coming by doing initial surveys of the facility and understanding the lay of the land above the ceiling, so to speak, and on the roof. Once we review that with them, Jamie will be a big part of that in terms of understanding the direction we're going with design. And once that schematic design is approved, it'll then go into what they call design development. That's another layer of diving into the details, so to speak, with respect to the design itself. And then once that's agreed upon by Jamie and Marcia, at that point we'll go into the construction document phase. And the construction document phase is going to be eventually what they'll be able to build from. Those documents will be submitted to the Department of Fire Prevention and Control to start this permit process. That could take 4, 5, 6 months. It just depends on what the queue is currently looking like with the FBC rate. And then once we receive a permit, we're off to the races.
Questions? And also just a big thank you to Mrs. Hanson and Mr. Chard for serving on that interview committee. It was a good portion of the day from about 11 till about 3:30 or so. So a lot of time, a lot of good discussions. I appreciate your time and your work on that. Questions for NB5 for Andy? Thank you, Andy.
Easiest
Appreciate
board
your time.
report I've ever done.
Thanks, Andy.
They see the length of the agenda.
I'm sorry, what was that?
They see the length of the agenda. We have a long agenda.
Yeah, is that what it is? Now you're here, everybody.
I know why.
Feel free to reach
There
out.
will be more questions in the future, for sure.
All right, you'll shoot me a little text and let me know because we do have to go through selecting group 14 as well tonight and get
Yep.
them going. That's our commissioning agent who's going to help assist. I apologize, I was remiss in not mentioning that. They're going to assist and make sure that the design is going the direction we'd like it to from a code compliance standpoint. So that's another important task for the board tonight as well. With that, I'll be off.
Does everyone understand what a commissioning agent is before we move on? Or what their role is on both ends of it?
Might as well enlighten us.
Do you want
I'd
to?
be happy to tell you. So, commissioning comes from the U.S. Navy. When they commissioned a ship, they went through after the ship was designed and built, and literally every single light switch, every knob, button, gun turret, you name it, was commissioned. And that means that there's a third party that comes through and assures that at the end of the day, it was built per the design. This is a better hybrid in so much as during construction and during design, the commissioning agent is involved to keep an eye and assist us in making sure that design is heading the correct direction. And then once we agree, as we went through the different steps with schematic design, design development, construction, once we get to construction, they will also be periodically visiting, and they come up with what they call issues logs. If there's anything they notice out the site that isn't in compliance with what the expectation is, the design builders put on notice and to correct. So hopefully by the end of the process, it's checking a box at that point. So that's where it comes from. It comes from when they used to commission ships. And now it's code required now. We have to do it per the IBC. Any questions? Okay, this time I'm really leaving. All right. Y'all have a nice night.
Thanks, Andy.
My pleasure.
Next item of business, 5.3, pre-K Head Start and Little Beach report. Mrs. Smith, you're up.
All right. Okay, well, we have a lot to go through. So, well, I do want to start off on a really highlighted note. So we were able to take 153 preschoolers to Drovers, and it took us 4 days, and I believe 11 trips over that we were able to conquer that. It was so wonderful. We were able to get some pictures. Our consumer reviews were put out to all of our preschoolers, and in their consumer reviews, they gave Drovers a 5-star rating. So they did a great job. Here's some cute little pictures of them. A couple of them that gave reviews. My favorite one is probably the pancake is good, but the bacon is gooder. So that's probably my favorite review. But I'll pass those around so you can take some look at it. Some of our cuties there. So they had a great time. We were super excited to take them. They have to order themselves. Like, we kind of prompt them, but they have to order themselves. They have to request what they need. So it is a lot of fun. And we had so many compliments from the other customers at Drovers.
That's great.
That's cute. So I guess we'll get down to the nitty gritty though. I want to start off with just the May update. So we'll submit our Head Start continuation grant on June 1st with your approval. We're continuing with the grants that we set last year. So we're in year 2 of our 5-year grant process. So those goals will remain the same. We will just update our progress on those. The biggest goal that we've set mostly with the board, a couple years ago was tracking our children from preschool through grade 3 to see those that are ready, for reading skills. We will have final data for you for a total of 5 years, but we are extremely proud that we're able to dibble the kids every year, moving on. So we've got a fun spreadsheet that will track those kids over the years and just updating progress as we get that. Another piece that we've continued to work on is our professional development in our classroom and just really helping our staff not only improve and grow in their education, but to make sure that they're receiving proper credential levels according to the state. So that's been a huge undertaking. The staff has just really dove in to get the right credentials and moving up on that. So those are kind of the highlights of the continuation grant. There's a narrative piece in your board report. If you click on that link, you can read the whole thing. Lacey's have been through this a couple times. So if there's any questions on that, please let me know. The other big part with Head Start is that corrective action plan, going through and just fixing and adjusting our process for background checks and getting that all, I guess, lined out according to Head Start standards. And so I appreciate Marsha and Lacey and Erin. They went through, made a really good plan so that Lacey and Erin really can talk back and forth, making sure we have like a district hire date, a district approval rate, and then a Head Start date. So that we make sure we have all the proper background checks on that, so you can also go through that. I feel like we've done a really good job making sure that our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted on that piece.
Kendra, I'm gonna interrupt you
Yeah.
for just a
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
I just wanna
Absolutely.
clarify something.
Mhm.
At no time was a staff member employed or working in the Head Start that didn't go through background checks or fingerprint, like that has never happened. We've always made sure they're fingerprinted and background checks are taken care of. Where the confusion is on our paperwork, the start date was the night of the board meeting. So if the board meeting was May 19th, the start date would say May 19th. We wouldn't allow that employee to start until those background checks came back. And sometimes if they didn't get their fingerprints done in time, it might be 2 or 3 days or a week. And so we knew their start date, they weren't allowed on campus until it was done, but it was all in the paperwork. So now we've just clarified language and how we're handling paperwork and processes.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of you were here when we did the swap from the Head Start running through the church to the school district. And so just balancing all those transfers over and everything is also a good learning piece too. Okay, so on to the Little Beats preschool. I have our Growing Strong Together and how we're going to go about working on making Little Beats a better place and becoming solvent, or at least aiming towards that direction. With preschool, we will have 84 graduates tomorrow night, moving on to kindergarten. If you would like to join us, we'll be there at 6 o'clock at the secondary campus. We will have 59 students returning to preschool. Of those 59 students, 20 of them will remain on IEPs. So we are only sending on about 12 to kindergarten. So we are keeping a handful of those specialized support kiddos. And we were able to register, as of now, we're still looking for additional students to come into preschool, but right now we have 48 who are registered for preschool of next year. Through that process, working with Michelle Suter, Ms. Cody, and BOCES, we were able to do Child Find today. We were also able to push out an ASQ, which is a screener for all preschool kids entering. Of that screener, we are seeing a possibility of 12 children who are needing additional supports also. So it's not like a set number, but that's what the screeners are telling us right now. So we have kind of just a little flag on those, just so we're watching and really making sure we're mapping things out, not only for ourselves, but our classroom teachers, enrollment, just all the pieces, and looking at those components and how we manage all of that. So with that, we're proposing an expansion to our preschool. to move from, currently we have 7 classrooms to 7.5. In that also is a kind of a hybrid leadership role where there's a 0.5 teacher and a 0.5 assistant director. You guys have all seen for about 6 months now, we've had that vacancy for that assistant director position that we've been unable to fill. So we're trying to get kind of creative in how we can, 1, hold it in the budget, but 2, support our classroom. So adding that 0.5 position for that assistant and teacher. So it's like 8 classrooms, but only one's gonna run a half a day. Right now we have 7. So to maintain the Head Start 4 full days, we have to maintain a 50% Head Start in full day, meaning that 1,020 hours. And then we can have the other 3.5 classrooms that would meet like the needs of our children enrolled in either UPK, tuition. Some of those can be Head Start, but less than 49% of our students enrolled can only be in half day. So we're just kind of watching those components. So that's in the proposal for tonight. Are you guys okay with me keep going on that? Okay. So fiscally planning for success for Little Beats. As you guys know, we've had some budget challenges that have been brought to our attention, and so we are $460,000 to the deficit. 60,000 of that is through employee benefits, where we pay the 50% of their child care. Right now, we're doing Keith and Marsha and I, we've gone through looking at the potential reduction of 100,000, and so through that, looking at a 4-day week, removing Fridays except for the PD Fridays for staff to have their children attend so they can attend professional development, along with adjusting our rates to be more competitive in Morgan County. And so I was able to look at all of the updated CCAP rates that the state and the county are able to pay, as well as private and other centers in Morgan County. We also were able to increase that rate, so we're not leaving money on the table when we're asking for those reimbursement rates from CCAP and different things like that, so our rate has to match. Marsha, do you have anything to add in that section?
I'm just gonna restate.
Sure.
Because you stated it very well, but there's a lot of numbers there.
Absolutely.
So, right now, we're taking $460,000 from general fund for Little Beats. Again, just like she stated, 60,000 is that 50% of the tuition. So as we stand now, $400,000 is what is being sent over to the child care fund to subsidize Little Beats. That's the deficit that it's running. If we close on Fridays, which is a potential action item, there's the potential to save $100,000. I want to be clear that that's a potential, because you could have people pull because we're no longer a 5-day program. So that's the question, and I think we need to open this up with your permission, President Chard, for discussion with the board. This is a tough decision. This is not an easy decision, and with Kendra here, I'd like the opportunity for us just to think about that and ask questions, which serves our staff and our community the best. The goal is to reduce expenses and increase revenue to the greatest extent possible. What you as board members will need to decide, when we have Mr. Yake here too, he's a great resource because he has a lot of knowledge, but what is that amount that you're willing to subsidize Little Beats? If we work on this, if it's reducing it by a day to try to save $100,000, increase tuition, trying to increase revenue, working on marketing to try to increase the number of students, or children enrolled, what is that number? And how long do you as a board want to continue down that path? Those are all really hard decisions, but ones that we probably need to discuss.
I do have some additional numbers to go along with that. So currently we have 42.5 FTEs enrolled with Little Beats. We have room to fill 13.5 more FTEs to make our maximum capacity of 56. That kind of, it's like a double, like sided question though, because our Rams room, all the others run on a full day schedule. However, the Rams room is a unique room because they serve kids that come either after school or after preschool. So it's hard to fill that room to max capacity because you never know who's gonna be coming after preschool and stuff. So those numbers are based off those 4 rooms that run at a full FTE slot. We did give we gave half FTEs for those that come in part-time in that Rams room. So that's kind of a unique situation, but those are some numbers for that as well.
Thank you for providing that.
Am I recalling correctly that you did some kind of survey? Did you do a survey of the district employees?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to say about that, or any, or do you have results from that, or?
We do.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
just-
it's okay.
Okay. Oh, it is on here? Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
I can pull it up on
I was
here
gonna say,
too.
thank you. That way we can.
Kendra,
Mm-hmm.
on page 1 of your report here, it says district employees enrollment, 21 children, 16 tuition paid. Can you explain that?
Which one are you looking at? Oh, is it at the maroon header at the top?
Yeah, it's like kind of like gray.
Read that to me.
It
Yeah,
says-
read mine, sorry, my computer just died.
You
I'm
have listed
pulling it up right- okay.
district employee enrollment, 21 children, and in parentheses you got 16 tuition paid.
It's right.
The first slide, yeah.
It's right here. So some of those children are district, so 16 are the ones that pay, you guys pay 50% on those 16 because the other 5 are enrolled in CCAP. So then there is CCAP, the state, the county contributes their portion. So we don't ask the district for any compensation of their 50% because of what that rate would be.
You're right.
And I'll go to the parent survey data, which is right here. Shrink it just a little bit. Can you see it okay, Kendra?
Mm-hmm. And so we did receive some data that people would have to possibly find an alternative care for their child. Part of this proposal would be then offering like a family, friend, and neighbor act is something that it would not be related to the district. It would be a completely separate component, but it is where some of our staff members could offer to watch children, whether it be in their home or the family's home, on that day that they were off. So families that would really still need that, but they appreciate the quality and the value that Little Beats can offer, they can still maintain that Monday through Thursday, and then they could opt into like a family, friend, and neighbor by reaching out to some of our employees that were willing to do that or set up some type of, I guess what we consider like a nanny care like situation or a shared nanny care for those days. So yes, that's, I believe what, Marcia mentioned that as a potential savings because we could potentially lose some of our current clientele, I guess. We also surveyed our staff as well. Most of 85% there would prefer to work a 4-day week. The rest of the district, preschool through 12th grade, works on a 4-day school week, and so then that offsets that. I can get you data as well on how many staff children are still attending on those Fridays, because if I have staff that are working, then they also then have to bring their kids, but if they didn't work, then they wouldn't have to bring their children to
Do you have any,
locations as
just
well.
a rough estimate, any sense for what that number would be?
Not off the
Okay,
top of my head,
that's
sorry.
fair, that's fair. Well, that's a lot of good information.
Marcia, did you also mention in an email this week about another childcare facility possibly opening in the
There
community?
is one in, not in Brush Hospital, but in Fort Morgan Hospital. So
Okay.
there is a wing of their hospital that they're opening up to a new childcare facility, starting, I think, June 2nd, but don't quote me.
Okay.
So, a couple of points that I just want to throw out there for us to all be thinking of, and maybe refreshers, maybe not, is this. First, let me say this is a very, very challenging topic, and it starts by being very challenging because if you all remember when we discussed opening this child care facility, there was discussion and an expectation, I think, is fair amongst the board that this would need to become self-sufficient or solvent at some point in time.
Right.
I think for a multitude of purposes, and along those lines, I think one of the questions that we have to ask as we're navigating this decision is how much general fund monies are appropriate to put into childcare that is outside of K-12 education. And the majority of that revenue is designated at some point to be K-12 funds, and we need to be cognitive of that and deliberate and debate that, I think, to some extent. I think there are valuable arguments that a portion of that money does benefit when we talk about a service for our staff. That can translate back into the recruitment and retention, and that leads back into outcomes, student outcomes, and that whole K-12 piece. But we need to be serious about what that is. Is it 50,000? Is it 200,000? Is it 400,000? That's one of the questions we need to be asking and answering in order to navigate these tough decisions. I also think it's very important that we don't forget that when the discussions and debates were taking place about a 4-day school week, one of the key factors brought by the community was the need for childcare. And I'm not going to say there was promises made, because that would be inaccurate in my opinion, but I always felt that there was a commitment to helping bridge that gap in our community for childcare when the district chose to go to a 4-day school week. I think we need to remain cognitive of that as we navigate this decision as well. I went back and forth a lot, and the numbers tell me that this isn't a simple cost-cutting scenario that works, because right there we identify a number of full tuition paying families that have identified that a 4-day solution doesn't work for them, if that's fair to say. And so with that in mind, Kendra, I'd like some insight. Let me set this up first, okay? You, your people, this board, this community were wrongfully presented the financials of this program. There's no other way to say it. Don't know why, but we were made to be under the understanding that it was running in the black for quite some time. So it's, I think, fair to say that perhaps actions and focus taken by you and your team maybe weren't designed to really recruit and stuff because you thought you were where you needed to be. I thought you were where you needed to be. So I'd like some insight into your thoughts about what do you truly feel the growth potential is for this service?
Sorry, gathering my thoughts. I would agree. I think that we probably haven't pushed marketing like we did because we thought we were where we were. And that's kind of where it was. We also didn't, we've heard, I've told you guys about our staffing difficulties, those components. So looking at that, knowing like all of the compliant issues and the ratio requirements and all those components that I'm always putting into thought, and maintaining, I know what Brush School District requires of quality, and I want to maintain that. I do think that we can fill those slots to max capacity, but it's gonna take a lot of marketing and it's gonna take a lot of push to get that out to the public and bringing those in. The hardest part my team will have is being able to flex those and holding the district slots for those district employees when it comes to summers. Staff's home during the summer, so then they unenroll their kids during the summer and they want to re-enroll their kids in August. And so if they pull that slot, but I fill it with a private person, then how do I go to that private person and be like, well, there's now a district employee, so I can't enroll you any longer. That doesn't feel good. And so I have to maintain that balance, and we have to maintain each room. It's not like in kindergarten or first grade where you could just have all these kids of all mixed ages and they can just go wherever. It's like they can only, with 18-month in groups can only move, and so we always have to reserve as that next group moves up. And so it's kind of a, yes, max capacity is ideal and that's going to bring in the most revenue, but I have to make sure that I'm saving spots for when that kid ages out of the previous room before. And so it's a complete domino effect that happens, and it has to happen in a very, I guess, Ms. Post, Erin, she does that in a very finesse way. She has to make sure it happens, and it happens accordingly for the safety of children and ratio-wise. I want this to be successful. I think it is crucial for our staff to be able to come to work and do that. I would like to almost build a new business plan. That's where my brain's going. I feel like if I would have been set up from the beginning with a very good business model, we wouldn't be here today. So I feel like maybe going back to that and drawing up a full business model with Keith and Marcia and really knowing what we need to do would set the grounds. And I don't think I can provide that to you tonight by any means. And so I don't really know if that answers any of your question, so I apologize. But it's needed. But what route we decide to go, I do think we have dedicated staff. I do think we provide quality care. I don't think any of those have ever been on the table. It's just how to bring in more revenue.
And do we have a gauge on the longevity of the buildings they're in? Like, are we still 10, 20 years out on those, looking good? Because that's another
Not
factor.
20. Certainly not 20.
A whole nother investment, so.
Correct.
I mean, they're not in bad shape, but they don't have another 20 years.
Okay.
I agree with what Mr. Miller had said, and I think I would add too that I know where this desire to help came from. Partnering for Progress, it started when I first came onto the board. I think it started right before I came onto the board actually, and so it's a brainchild of all of the stakeholders that were attending at that point in time, the different boards, library board, hospital board, city council members, representatives from Ebenezer, the hospital, things like that. And housing and childcare were two of the top issues that were brought in those meetings. And, can Ebenezer do something for childcare? Well, it's really not possible. Can this person, can this entity and this group do it? And it did come down to the school district saying, I can get this, let's grab it by the horns and we'll take it over and see what we can do. I also believe that the business model wasn't what it needed to be. We just didn't know it before it got to this point. I think it's highly crucial, not just to our staff, but our community needs it. And I know that we need to find a way to make it work. That's my biggest concern, is we just do not have childcare options in our area. Unless we want to lose them to Fort Morgan or lose them to Akron, because they've got some really good facilities. And then you run the risk of losing them out of your school district. Well, they've been going and they know these kids, and why don't I just roll them in Akron or Morgan, because they're familiar with those kids, and I don't want that for Brush. I want us to be the example of how we can do it right. So love your idea of going back to the drawing board and getting a really good plan. I think we've got a great mind that can help us do that, looking at all the things, but that's just my word. My words of encouragement is, I don't know that there's anyone in here that's really putting blame on anybody. I don't think that we can all share, and we just didn't know.
Yeah, I think for me then, I think we're all saying, yeah, we would like to or I think I'm hearing where we want to rework it. For me, then it becomes the timing, and then what's the investment in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the two, we got to agree that, okay, in the next 5 months, this is what we want to see. And if we don't hit these numbers by X stride, then we have a tougher decision to make. I mean, that's where we're at.
There's, in my opinion, there's no possible way you can be full all the time and all the things can work and stuff, and you're not gonna make up the full gap.
Right.
Right? It's just not, it's not a reality. I do think that if this is a community need, that there are partners in this community that, I don't want to speak for them, but the school district, the staff that we have are best capable to provide the best child care service, right? And we don't need to entirely reinvent the wheel when it comes to child care. We just need everybody to come together and make this work for everybody. And I don't know that those bridges have ever been crossed up to this point.
Or built, yeah.
But
in a strategic way.
as your appointed treasurer, I can tell you that there has to be a drop dead deadline that says we're either meeting progress points and checking boxes, or we're not, because I can't make a justification for $300,000 or $400,000 investment into this. That's hard to say, but it is what it is. There's no reason to beat around the bush, in my opinion, around that. Because the elements I mentioned earlier, because of
Stop.
what I think is just flat unfair, that we weren't presented with the proper information, you weren't provided the proper information, that it perhaps justifies a reset and a attempt to get this right.
So would that be best done in a work session to start? And what would be the next best steps to move forward?
So to create a business model would be us sitting down and working that. I think where you're going to find what Mr. Miller said to be somewhat true, and Mr. Ye, please feel free to jump in here, is our benefits. Part of working for a school district is we do have really great benefits. Para is very, very expensive, which is why we provided those compensation letters to staff, because we spend so much to make sure they have a pension when they retire at 55 or whatever, when they get their years. So that's a huge benefit of working for a school district, are the paid days off, the medical insurance, and then the pension. And so those are costs that your private child care provider does not have to pay. And that gap is going to be, it's never going to be able to be zero. You're right, because we already did the analysis. We're just telling you that can't be done. However, what is that gap that's okay? That's the question. Is it 200,000? Is it?
And you bring up a great question without asking the question, right? When we talk about marketing, what are our abilities? in order for those employees to be eligible for para, they have to have levels of qualification that private care facilities most likely don't, correct?
Not necessarily, because it's through licensure, and Kendra could talk about that. They have to have certifications and they're a level of a child care provider, but that's the same in private care. Licensing is the same.
What-
Bryson, does this have to be, for the budget to be approved in June, this is all part of that conversation, correct?
Sure.
So we kinda need to,
Let me ask
Yeah,
you
well-
one more question, and anyone can answer this. Basically, what we're talking about is the idea of possibly privatizing, right? Taking it outside the school district, if that's the only way to avoid para and all these benefit expenses. But do you think that you can hire the same quality of people that you're hiring on your team if we weren't offering those benefits? And maybe that's not a fair question, but that's a concern of mine. Like, I mean,
I think it's a completely fair.
higher
question.
pay and higher benefits attracts generally higher quality people. And so,
Absolutely, we are above. When I was gathering information on what we should charge, I was also gathering some information on what we pay, and we do pay a little above what private childcare, what their percentage is. So we are above that. We offer insurance. One, just the tone of working for the school district brings me a lot more people because they also think I'm working, I'll have the same hours or close to the same hours as my children. And so that is a huge selling offer for people. But I will tell you, if I had, because a lot of times when I hire a preschool floater and I hire a childcare person, or I have those openings, I interview at the same time for those two positions because they apply that way. And if I offer them, which one would you prefer? The floater who works 4 days a week for the school year or 5 days a week for daycare all year round, they're gonna choose my floater position 9 out of 10 times. Just because it aligns with what their children. Now, if their children are daycare age, under the age of 10, they go both ways because they know that they can still, they can still work and probably have their child at daycare. So I think it's a huge component that they are hired under the school district.
so to go back to Randy's question about the budget, what's our drop dead, what do you feel like is a drop dead deadline for this board to take action on if we are going to reduce days or increase tuition,
So,
increase rates? When do you need to, like, when are you feeling like I have to know this by this day to get you a budget on time?
I was just talking to Lacey, and we need to have it on the June 2nd agenda. You have to have it posted for 10 days.
We're out of time.
Here's what we have in the budget, though, is I already have it figured with a $300,000 contribution going over there. So it's figured in here at that level right now. If we want to make changes, we have till January 31st of 2026 to make official changes to the budget.
Right.
But to get through and get the budget adopted at the end of June, legally, that's what I have in here right now.
And that number would take into account 4 days rather than 5,
It's a 4-day versus 5.
and an increase in rates.
Yep, if we were to go back to the 5-day, we'd have to add 100,000 back in, and I'd probably have to have, at this point, since I got the budget balanced, we'd probably just have to do a notice of beginning fund balance usage form resolution, to where you guys would just basically give me 100,000 out of the beginning fund balance, and then give it to you to get through it. Again, we'll go back. I'll explain all this budget stuff here in a minute when it's my turn, but it's changing every single day, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have a couple different reviews for you guys between now and January.
Right. So my next thought through that process is that the big decision, I mean, the board could decide to just cut this whole thing and be done right now, right? And I don't feel like that's an option. I think we've got teachers that have already signed. I mean, we've renewed a bunch of teachers that would hugely impact. There's a whole lot of things that make it so that's probably not an option for us. And so the next most feasible way to make this thing at least acceptable for the coming year is to try to meet these budget numbers, and the agenda items that we have tonight is what this team's provided us with, a recommendation to get there. So that's where my thought process is right now.
It seems like the only choice we have, but we're gonna have to have some hard dates where if it isn't by this date, we have to do something different.
Yeah.
Can't keep going, because none of us could operate at that much of a deficit and still be in business. It's just, just the way it works.
But I think for the peace of mind of our staff that are taking advantage of this service, I think we kind of need to have the mindset that we're committing for a fiscal year at this level, in my opinion.
Does that work in the budget?
Well, that's where it's budgeted, is the
That's for the whole year, 300,000, yeah.
It's budgeted based off of what's proposed in front of you, right? Going down to basically a 4-day week and increasing tuition. And that's certainly an option, and I don't want to decredit the work that Kendra and her people have done to put this together, but that, because of the primary factor that it is my, and nobody knows until you know, right? But it is my belief that by going down to a 4-day week, we are not going to save $100,000 because we're going to lose tuition-paying families to some extent. And to the extent it could be a wash, right? And we don't gain anything. So for me, the question in my mind is, are we going to invest in this $100,000 under the context of here are the deadlines and what we have to achieve, so we can go have legitimate conversations with community partners and stuff, saying, guys, we want to provide this service, we want to do everything we can, but we can't continue to throw general fund money at this like we are. If this is going to work and work in our community, and it's good for everybody in our community, and we all got to come together as a community and make this thing go. And that requires an investment rather than just I don't want to, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I don't want to spend $300,000 instead of $400,000 to buy us a year.
When it's a bigger strategy to uncover.
I have a desire to see if this thing can work or not for all the reasons that have been discussed in this room. Our community needs it. We have staff members that need it. You know, there's a shortage. All of those things. Because taking a day away and raising tuition, just, it doesn't feel like a long-term solution.
I don't think anybody believes it is.
Right, so, I don't know, and that's a budgetary decision that this board has to make. There's options. There's options on the table, we just gotta decide which route we wanna go.
And I do think if we continue with the 5-day, I know you mentioned $100,000 to roll back in, but there's additional costs, like my contract's only so much, so like on Fridays, we've had to sub with assistant directors or fill-in directors, or, you know, my contract days have absorbed into those, or, you know, so there's all other extenuating factors. This other 0.5 assistant director will help cover some of the summer, but not, you know, not all of those Fridays, and so there's some, I mean, there are ways, but I also think it's not just $100,000 either.
But you're gonna have some offset too with increased tuition?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think we have a choice but to increase tuition.
Well, yes, I
For-
would agree. I think
You know,
that's
one
not
thing
the-
too, being a pessimist, you guys hired a pessimist, just so you know. I have to be, right? Increased tuition could reduce loss too. I mean, that could increase our loss of families as well, because people might be priced out. So that's another factor just to consider.
I appreciate the pessimist, by the way. Because I'm the eternal optimist. I need you in my life. Show me what could happen.
Yeah, it's one of those you don't know until you know.
Right.
But we're looking at data that says we have families that are going to go find different services if we go to a 4-day.
Yeah, it's just a giant Band-Aid.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I'm thinking too of like the staff themselves. Like that's where my heart always goes, right? So our childcare staff, like, I'd hate to see, I don't know how many for sure you have over there, 5 or 6 or 7 or however many there are, but I don't wanna see us lose staff either. And even if it meant that, oh, well, we're just gonna have to cut one to make budget or to help with that just doesn't feel good. So yeah, I do think about that as well. And I agree with Mrs. Cody on para. I think anytime you have a job that has any kind of retirement attached to it, you're gonna retain people who are good, because it's really beneficial to them to have that. So, for sure.
We would just need to know sooner than later, kind of the direction you all want to go with that, because we would need to revise all of the contracts of employment, and I would need to rebudget the expenditures to bring forward. And I can put together 2 budgets, and at June 2nd, you tell me which one you want, I can give you that one to approve, so, I mean, I can do it that way too, so.
I want to add and circle back to something Kendra said, just so you have, as you're making this decision and debating these 2 pieces, I would agree it's going to be more than 100,000, but go in with your eyes wide open, because we would need to increase that assistant director position, because her contract doesn't allow that many days to be 260, right? So that's where it was an assistant director, a full-time assistant director that we've merged into just a part-time position. So there would be the 100K plus, that's just salary of current staff, plus that half-time, another half assistant director. So being mindful of that has that side, and then maybe we could make it a go or see how close we can get. Again, I know that I know, just because we have a great finance director who did a nice cost analysis, looking at it, just how many openings do we have, what is our max capacity, plus the cost. The benefits are too high. If we want to save spots for our staff, like as Kendra referenced, because that also costs money. Another piece on the other side is if you say, all right, this is a cut dead date, this is the end, right here. I would propose and ask of the board that you wait till like June 1st. So to go back, that it's a full fiscal year, and say, whatever you decide to do, then we say, here's the date. I don't see it going to 0, so whatever we end up, whatever that gap is, we can report that out as we're moving along, monthly or quarterly, whichever you prefer. And then at some point when you may want to make a decision, as you're seeing that line and that trajectory, that will help me to engage with the community and those community leaders to say, if it's June 1st we're ending of 2026, not 2025. We want our staff and our staff children to be cared for this fiscal year. I think that's clear with this board. I would imagine, we haven't taken a vote, but I would guess that. But that would be a year. It will take us time to have those conversations and come up with a plan. Is it privatizing it? Is it people putting it in their budget? What that is, okay? So 2 things, probably more like 150 to 200K that you're adding in, and I'd ask that you give us a year.
And I was looking, Keith, do you know, was there like a, based on current enrollment with the proposed rate increases, what that generates?
I don't have that handy. I do have it in a spreadsheet. We did take current enrollment and we did inflate it a little bit, and we came up with the numbers to come up with this 300,000. So the enrollment is a little bit inflated even in that number for a little bit of growth. I don't think it was a whole lot, but just a little bit. I think it was a marginally.
So what you're saying is the rate changes don't offset any of the increase in costs that Marcia just demonstrated.
No, and most of the savings are salary and benefits, and you lost a day of revenue, and then you increase the daily revenue, so that offset that little bit, if you know what I'm saying.
Any other questions?
I have lots of thoughts, but that will be just
Yeah.
different than right now.
So 429, just to be clear, if the board desires to leave Little Beats as is, there's no action required. There are 2 action items, and we would just ask for a motion, and if there's not a motion, then we move to the next item.
Are we seeing significant pushback if we do raise tuition? Do we know? We don't know?
But I know that Ms. Smith did her research and looked at other childcare providers in the region, and that tuition increase is comparable, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we have a lot of CCAP families. I can't give you a number off the top of my
Sure.
head, but if we don't raise our rate to get that, then we can't ask the state for that.
To match
So
it,
they have
yeah.
we have to raise it. It doesn't mean that we couldn't offer discounts to the other people, but we have to raise that rate so we're not leaving that money.
Okay. Okay.
Got it.
22 children.
Thank you. You're hired. You come work.
In your spare time.
All I can do is read what somebody already wrote.
Very good. Anything else?
Hard stuff.
Thanks, Kendra.
You're welcome.
It's a lot of work.
Enjoy tomorrow night too. with the
It'll be
Littles.
great.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And Kendra, thank you again for the great job that you and your team does. I want this board to know that every single time I walk into Mrs. Smith's office, every single time, and I look at the screens of each one of the classrooms, not once, and I've been in her office a lot this year, not once have I ever seen even a slightly questionable moment. Like today there was staff member rocking and patting a baby, and the others were in an older classroom, they were playing with the kitchen and they were just having fun. And so I know without a shadow of a doubt we have one of the highest quality child cares in this region. They are doing a phenomenal job, and Ms. Smith is doing, and her team are doing a phenomenal job. So this really, really hard conversation has nothing to do with the quality of care at all. And I know that this board knows that. But I just also want to recognize the very, very hard and draining work childcare is. And these are our youngest beet diggers, right? They are our youngest one. We care a lot about them, and we care a lot about our beet digger family. So this is a decision that tonight I'm really glad I'm not a board member. Thank you, Deborah.
I'll echo what she said. I hear from the community all the time, how good the staff is, how kind they are, how welcoming they are. I mean, just all the things. So we do appreciate you. The community appreciates you.
Thank you.
Very good. Next item of business, 5.4, curriculum, instruction, data, and assessment update. Mrs. Kimball.
Yay. It's been a while since I've been here. I think my last was here in March, so I'll try to be quick. Just want to give you a little update on where we're at with our curriculum developments. So as a curriculum council, we met and we chose 2 ELA resources that we'll be piloting next year. We sent a survey out to K-5 staff members, and they gave us some feedback on which resources to pilot. So we are going to go with CKLA and L Education. The council also created weekly check-in forms and pilot assessment rubrics to help support that pilot for next year. We just want to make sure that we're kind of really being aware of our district goals and what it is that we want out of a reading program for our students, and making sure that we're supporting those teachers that are going to do that pilot in capturing that information. And so we're going to help facilitate that pilot with those documents, and then we'll come back and evaluate those. We will, again, be looking at science, social studies, and business education at the secondary level. That committee also kind of reevaluated our supplemental approval process. So we created definitions for core, supplemental, and intervention resources. We decided to pull technology subscriptions out of supplemental resources, which is where it was kind of living in prior years. And so we're actually gonna go through and reevaluate all of our tech subscriptions this summer prior to purchasing any of those. So Mrs. Cody and I will meet with each administrator, we'll go through each one of the tech subscriptions that we currently have and kind of do an additional approval process for those.
Can you give some examples of what you're talking about with tech resources?
So, tech subscriptions would be any instructional resource that we're using that's students complete or that they do on a computer. So like IXL, Happy Numbers, Reflex Math, Read Naturally Online. We have a pretty big list of tech subscriptions that we utilize as instructional resources.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to give you an update on our Atlas UBD implementation. We were really positive and really hoping that we would have that review completed, and we just weren't able to get it done. So I apologize for that. Mrs. Cody and I will be meeting this summer though to kind of go through there and do that. We also wanted to make sure that we gave staff members the opportunity to read the feedback that we had given and that they had a chance to go back in and make updates to those units prior to us giving them to the board. So we're hoping that we have those to the board in August. I apologize for that delay, but that's just how this last part of this, I guess the first part of the year went, or the last part of the school year, depending on how you look at it.
And Ms. Kimball, she's apologizing, but I own it. I have not had the chance or the opportunity, or taken the time to review all the social studies UBD units. I have now officially, I announced to Ms. Kimball this morning, I have put it on my calendar in June. I have blocked off a full day just to review units. So I will have that done by July 1, and just like she said, we'll give that feedback to staff. So it's not her place to apologize. This is where I just said, I'm glad I'm not a board member because you have a really hard decision. I feel for you. This is right now you could say, I'm really glad I'm not a superintendent. I have to review K-12 all social studies units. So that's on me. So you need to know that. But thank you.
And you have also been earning your construction management degree this last semester.
I'm learning a lot.
It's quite fun.
Thank you for understanding.
Yes.
Our instructional focus remained the same throughout the entire year. We focused on student learning objectives and measurable outcomes, and we really focused on student engagement this last part of the school year. So the observations that we conducted in March, I gave you some data there based off of those observations. From that data, we really identified that a big part of our focus needs to be on making sure that our objectives are aligned to grade level standards, as well as kind of ramping up our student engagement piece too. So those would be some changes that we're going to be looking at next year when we think about our goals. Speaking of goals, we are going, we started some strategic planning with the admin team. In March, we identified multiple areas of focus for our strategic plan, from engagement, artificial intelligence, curriculum alignment, rigor, training, a lot of different areas that we wanted to kind of focus on. So when we meet next week, we will try to get that list to be a little bit smaller so that we can fit into a manageable plan. We also created yearly SMART goals, and then just identified areas that are really going well and areas that we need to focus on that need some work. Like I just said, we'll finish that work next week on the 28th and 29th with district administrators, which then will give them the information that they need to be able to start working on their strategic plans at their buildings. Really exciting news. So I applied for 2 EASY grants. One of those EASY grants was an instructional coaching grant, and the other one was a supplemental grant for improvement effort. So the instructional coaching grant allows us to hire a guest teacher at both Thompson and Beaver Valley to help us support the work that we're doing with the instructional coaching framework. The other grant is going to allow us to get some training on sheltered instruction observation protocols and universal design for learning in our schools next year at the beginning of the year. And we're going to be able to pay teachers a stipend to attend those trainings. I'm really cold right now and my voice is like shaking. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to hold back my teeth from chattering.
No, you're okay. I've literally been sitting here in my mind debating, emailing Bobby, like, can you take the thermostat up just a touch?
Oh my
'Cause
gosh.
I sit right underneath the fan, so
I'm not about ready to cry, I
Lindsay.
promise. I'm just really cold.
You're good.
And I will use that moment to say she not only applied for those 2 grants, she received those grants.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. We're really excited to be able to start that work and have some extra funding to help support that work.
And Lindsay was instrumental with the Counselor Corps grant as well. So she worked with CEI to write that grant. That was all her work. And she worked with Danielle Scheel. They did that work and received that grant too. So
We did.
a lot of good
It's really
things.
exciting. We're
Mhm.
super excited about that. I'll talk a little bit more about the dollar amounts associated with those. Yeah, so that's really kind of curriculum and instruction. Any questions on those pieces before we move into data and assessment?
I just had one back on the ELA for elementary.
Yeah.
There has been discussion, I don't know if we are or aren't, so you guys can clarify, around like the whole science of reading, teaching kids how to read, like it's not innate, it's something you have to teach a child how to do. Do these pilots we're running kind of align with that strategy or that thinking? Okay.
Yeah, they are about the
I figured they did, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
That
question.
was one of our criteria actually.
Great.
That when we kind of went through and looked at the resources that we wanted to make sure that we
And then will this replace some of those phonics videos potentially, where they sit down and watch the video? Or is it not phonics related at all with your pilots? Is there a phonics component they're piloting? Or do you know yet?
So I can answer that one if
Okay.
that's okay,
That's
unless you
fine,
want me
go
to. So that's Haggerty, which
Okay.
can be a video, but can be taught by the teacher, and that's the movement.
Is to
together.
take that off the video. Wonderful. Okay,
So-
great. Thank you, Marcia. Thanks, Lindsay.
That's part of that tech.
Yeah, I think that's
Evaluation
I
that
think
we're
that's a
gonna
good
do.
move if we
Yeah.
can do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
State assessments, we completed 248 PSAT and SAT assessments, 1,331 CMAS tests. So there was a lot of testing that we did, and we got it all done and all completed. We finished up our DIBELS testing for the end of the year, and I think we got our last few stragglers today for NWEA finished up. So we are done with that. We did receive our access results. We had 118 students that tested on access. So access is the assessment that our students that are multilingual learners take every year to measure their language development throughout the year. And of those 118, 12 students have met the criteria to begin the redesignation process. So we will be collecting data on those students and evaluating whether or not we feel like they're ready to move out of the program. I know Marcia already shared this with you, but I'm really excited about it. CDE notified us that we do not have to take part in a comprehensive audit for the past 5 years.
Huge.
That's a huge relief. There is a really big chance that we will have to take part in a comprehensive audit within the next 5 years. And it's a lot of work, but it's not something that scares me, so I think we're okay.
I think you said that like 3 months ago in a meeting. Like you should expect this to happen.
I did.
And then we skated by.
Yeah, I
You
did.
did a great
It's
job.
like, we probably are going to get an audit because we have not had one for 5 years. But yeah, we got that notification. That was exciting.
And again, I have to shout out, I'm sorry, but I have to shout Miss Kimball out. The reason we didn't is because prior to it, she had to fill out this lengthy survey for each data collection and explain, and based off that survey, they determine if you need a comprehensive audit or not. So based on our work, that's how we were excused.
Yeah, that was the new process this year for CDE, and it was a little bit daunting because you of course want to make sure that you're providing them with all of the information that they're asking for, but sometimes when it's brand new, it's like, is that what they want, or is this what they want? So that was good. I gave you a list of the different data collections that I'm currently working on. There are a few others on there that I didn't list, but these are all just end of the year reports that CDE requires us to collect, and really it's me collaborating a lot with our district administrator, or with our building administrators too. So I usually put everything together, submit it to the state, push out reports to building principals and have them review them, We then go back through and make sure that all of that data is clean and accurate, and then submit it to the state. So I told you about the 2 easy grants. So the building capacity for instructional coaching, that's a $100,000 grant that we received. And again, that's just gonna allow us to be able to hire a guest teacher at both Thompson and Beaver Valley to help facilitate that instructional coaching process or framework.
And Lindsay, do they
Yep.
just do that for a year, one school year? Is that how the grant works?
The grant is just one school
Okay.
year. Yeah. And then the supplemental grant for improvement efforts, that's a $71,000 grant. And we have to have those funds spent by September 30th. So all of this training will happen at the very beginning of the school year. And then we got the Counselor Corps grant. So for this first year, it's really a planning year for subsequent years of the Counselor Corps grant. It's a little bit less of a dollar amount, so $30,000 that we'll get for planning. And then in the following years, we plan to apply and ask for, I think it was about $350,000 a year for the next 3 years. So that'll be a pretty big grant if we can get it. And I don't know like if you get it the first year, if they're like, yep, you get it for all the following years, but there's a pretty good chance that you should get it. So
It's a huge
I feel
grant.
optimistic about that. That's a really big grant.
And it pays for counselors, that's what it will be.
It's very.
So, it's huge.
We also applied for the concurrent enrollment grant, and I haven't heard back on that one yet. So that's another one that we did. Registration. So we opened our online program registration this last week. We kind of created a tiered registration process. So part of our goal with the online program is to bring back some of those students that we've lost to other online programs. And so with our tiered registration, we offered that those slots to students that are in Brush School District boundaries, used to attend Brush, but have left and gone to another Colorado school online program or school. So right now we're kind of just waiting for those parents to fill out registration to see what our numbers look like. And then we'll go on to our tier 2 registration process depending on the numbers that we get, and then on to tier 3. So we're excited about that opportunity and excited to hopefully bring some of these kiddos back into Brush. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is being able to offer that social aspect for kiddos too. So not only they'll be able to complete their core academic content areas online, we're also going to give them the opportunity to come and do specials during the school day. Or they can do their specials or electives class online if they want to. We also will have a designated area for those students to be able to come and work in a classroom in our building if they need to, and have direct access to that online teacher or coordinator. I think we have a really good, solid plan in place, and I'm excited to see what it does for our district. Yeah. And that's all I have.
Well done.
Any questions for Mrs. Kimball?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll be able to get a review or at least an initial look at CMAS in June 23rd meeting? Or is that too quick? No pressure, just
No, I
asking.
think
what
we may
our
still be
expectation-
embargoed then. You'll probably need to wait, sorry, and I'm
No, you're
speaking
fine.
for you.
That's why I was gonna say the same thing. I'm thinking it will still be.
It's
they don't
real-
usually
right
lift
on
that
the edge.
embargo.
I don't know if we'll have an analysis, we'll just have to kind of see.
Okay.
So, question mark, NWA data at the work session, probably,
Okay.
we can determine, but yeah, Lindsay, I'd offered to share it tonight, and I was like, we have a lot, so. If we could hold off,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
There are updated percentages on that spreadsheet that I had shared with you prior for NWEA. So if you want to, you still have that link, I'm sure, in that last update that I shared with you. You can get in there and kind of look at that. And if you have questions, you can just email those to Marcia, and she can email them on to me, and then I can get back to you. I'm 100% fine with that. Just side note, I don't think that our principals have seen that yet, so I'll make sure and share it with them also, because I just updated those numbers as our last kids were getting done. So there's a chance that they could change 1 or 2% as well, just as some of that data gets finalized in NWEA's platform. But should be pretty accurate.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for all your work on everything, all of the above.
100%.
Next item of business, 5.5 board reports. Are there any board reports at this time?
Preschool Policy Council did not have a meeting last month. Meet and Confer did on the same day that the lights went out for DAC. We were in the building when the lights went out, so it was a little more challenging for sure. Talked about the leave policies, general leave, the sick bank, all the things that we've got on our agenda tonight to look at that are, I believe, are they in first reading, Mrs. Cook?
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So those are the things that we discussed. Really didn't get too far in the meeting because, like I said, the lights went out. It was a wonky day. So it was scary in the middle of the dust storm and all of that. So anyway, that's all I've got.
We had BOCE's meeting last week, called in. It was kind of just end of year wrap up, so they were approving budget, superintendent roles. There wasn't anything that we weren't aware of already that Ms. Cody hasn't been working on, so wouldn't say anything new. And then they don't meet again until September, so the next BOCE's meeting will be in September. There were some graduations. Weekends might have just happened or is happening this week. I can't remember, sorry. But all was well on the BOCE's side. Graduation was great. We kind of mentioned that a little bit ago, but wonderful ceremony. They did a beautiful job. It's just a great experience to be able to see those kids happy and eyes shining and parents happy. So that was fun. And then was part of the interviews with Shard and Marcia or Miss Cody last week and for the design builder process. So if you guys have questions, let us know. But it was a good week, busy week.
Mr. Miller, you like to present a report for Finance Committee?
Yeah, so myself, Paul, Marcia, and Keith, we met last week for 3 hours, reviewed a number of things. Keith, you're on borrowed time tonight, just remember that? No. We received a detailed update on a lot of Keith's findings as well as progress on correcting issues with the financial bookkeeping and processes in the district. We also spent a significant amount of time reviewing the preliminary budget. As the district treasurer appointed by this board, which serves our community as a whole with the primary responsibility to financial oversight, I need to be a little bit bold and share with you that financial processes and procedures and financial record keeping under the previous superintendent was nothing short of unacceptable. You all are privy to a number of things that have been identified since Mrs. Cody started. I'm not going to spend the time to discuss specific findings, but encourage you to meet with Marcia and Keith to learn more if your opinion differs from mine. We don't need to live in the past, point fingers, or even argue the intentionality of what was or was not taking place. Rather, what we need to do is to learn from our mistakes and work diligently to correct the wrongs and establish practices to ensure that what was taking place under the previous leadership never happens in the Brush School District again. How do we do that? This board needs to establish sound processes and procedures for fiscal oversight and accountability that can be executed efficiently and effectively by us, but maybe more importantly, can be passed on to future boards, ensuring sound oversight for years to come, no matter who is serving in what roles throughout the district. We have started to establish some of these things and must ensure we carry through and finalize these processes prior to a large turnover of board seats at the end of this year. With that being said, I also want to report on the positives and progress. Serving as the board treasurer since Mrs. Cody began her employment with us has been a refreshing 180-degree switch to knowledge, understanding, and transparency that has proven to be an absolute must for sound governance. In addition, it has been refreshing to witness a transition in financial prioritization to be focused first on what is best for kids, a priority I hope we can all ensure fully returns and remains at the top of the list. I also want to acknowledge that Keith has been working diligently and has made outstanding strides in the amount of issues he has found and corrected, on top of producing a preliminary budget that is the most comprehensive and transparent one I have seen during my time on this board. It is put together in a way that is very straightforward and easy to follow. Collectively, Marcia and Keith are tasked with a challenging job. They have no choice but to propose significant changes to ensure financial solvency of the district. What everyone needs to understand is the financial picture that has been presented in previous years has not been accurate and adjustments and challenging decisions must be made to establish proper procedures and realignment of spending to ensure the school district's financial future is strong. That's all I got.
That's all. Thanks, Bryson.
Thank you.
I will just, I fully support Bryson's entire statement there, and just echo all that sentiment. And thank you guys for all the work you've done so far. And we know we have a mountain to climb there, but we're headed in the right direction quickly. So, anybody have any questions on any of the board reports? Next item of business, 5.6 financial report.
All right, well, I had about a 20-minute presentation, but Bryson just took up 15 of it, so.
You still get your 20, this is important enough, you get your 20.
No, there's just a few things I want to hit on here, and I put together a little narrative, which I plan on doing for you guys monthly, but I was just going to basically read it just so it's record. If you guys have any questions afterwards or whatever, stop me if you ask. Basically, you know, I put in about 100 hours of work reconciling these, doing things before I even started, and just trying to get things in line, setting baselines. One thing I want to make real crystal clear is with this budget this year is this thing was built. I mean, this wasn't anything I inherited. I mean, this was something that we had to go through line items and trends, and we had to actually go and calculate salaries and make sure that everything was in the right line items and physically build this budget with not a whole lot of backup, not a whole lot of documentation. So there's going to be some flexibility that I need within this budget for at least the first year. I think we're pretty good. We'll put a lot of time into it. But anyways, we had to establish a baseline. We had to do it somewhere, right? So anyways, just a few things, some accomplishments, some outgoing initiatives. We successfully reconciled the funds as of July 1st, 2024 in alignment with the auditor's statements. What that means is the auditor had his stated numbers. Our system did not jive with it, it did not align. And we had to go back and we had to do extensive system rollovers and adjusting entries to get them to balance at 7-1. That was going back to another baseline I had to establish. Wasn't a lot of monetary numbers, but it was a lot of just moving around things. And Mrs. Cody was kind of signed all my journal entries to make sure so we got backups and things like that going forward. Right now, every fund with the exception of Fund 22 is reconciled, and I just about got it done. I just haven't had time, so it's going to be an easy fund to reconcile. We also completed reconciliations for all state and BOCES revenue through the end of April. In a set of books on a balance sheet for a school district, if your cash balances and your revenues tie out, that's like 80% of your books. So we made a lot of ground really fast. Still got a long ways to go, don't get me wrong, but we made up a lot of ground. We also reconciled the property tax revenue from Morgan and Washington counties. There's quite a bit to that every month, and that was a pretty big undertaking that we did as well. And then we got the bond fund fully reconciled year to date. Budgeting and financial planning. We finalized and balanced the preliminary budget and appropriation resolution. The preliminary budget is right here in front of you. I'm going to go over it in just a second here. And the appropriation resolution is just the legal statutory budget that's required to go to CDE. I haven't presented that yet because it's not due to you guys until the June meeting. And I just want to make sure that if I had to alter anything, it was good to go. So I'll make sure when I hand it to you, it's right. I also developed a preliminary cash flow analysis, which is right here, with a couple suggestions going forward. It's this big legal document here. I'm planning on going over it in just a few minutes as well. I just want to go through the here. We've initiated some improvements to fund separation processes for cash collections and distributions between Fund 10 and 23. That's our general fund and our activity fund. There's a definite need to separate and segregate those funds to a point. And we completed reconciliations and income statements for the preschool and Head Start programs as well as Little Beats. The preschool and Head Start programs right now are both operating with a positive balance. So Kendra and her team are doing a great job over there with that. Operational improvements. I just wanted to start clarifying saying this. After meeting with you guys, I know this isn't the board's stance, so please don't take what I'm saying incorrectly, but we've launched an initiative in the office here to encourage more mindful and conservative spending across the district. Mindsets have to change. That's the big thing here. Our priorities need to include retention of quality staff, preserving and maintaining assets, and most important priority being student outcomes. We've started coordinating meetings with district office and school site staff to review and implement updating purchasing and cash handling procedures. We're putting some new procedures in place for several things to really clean things up and really tighten up our spending. Developing simplified reference materials, cheat sheets to support training and implementation. And one of the things we're doing is we're introducing a multi-tiered purchasing approval process, which will basically be a 4-tiered process. There'll be an initial quote from initial quote and requester signature. Then it'll go to review and approval by a building administrator. Secondary review will come over to the district office and be reviewed by Mrs. Cody. And final approval by me to make sure there's money in the budget and or the superintendent if roles have to switch for some reason, vacations or what, so be it. And then approved requests will then be entered in Infinite Visions for final processing. What this does is this really tightens up our spending because it goes through 4 people. So at any point in that chain, the spending can stop and it can be questioned. So I think that will really tighten up our processes as far as spending money on things that we don't necessarily have to. We're also looking at centralizing our deposit processing at the district office for accurate coding and reconciliation. This is important to make sure that if money comes into the activity fund or the general fund, that it is deposited in an appropriate account and used for those purposes therein. We also are establishing clear guidelines for activity fund use. Prohibiting general pooled accounts, and what I mean by that is one of the things that we have right now is we have set up where we will have like an activity account. It will say like general whatever. Money needs to be in FFA, FBLA, whatever, and they need to come out of those accounts. We don't need that pool accounts anymore. So we're going to clean that up to where those pool accounts go away. That'll fix a lot of things and it'll build some trust back in the community. We're going to implement some formal procedures for transfers or inter-club loans. There shouldn't be transfers. Soccer shouldn't be paying for football, and football shouldn't be paying for tennis. So we're going to work on processes for that as well. And basically ensuring all funds are used for their intended purposes, improving transparency and community trust, like I stated a minute ago. We're exploring the consolidation of electric payment systems through My School Bucks. I had a great team here in the office that sat through a meeting the other day. Right now, I think we have 5 electronic payment systems in the district that collect money for various things, and we're trying to consolidate it into one system. I don't know about you, but I think this system's awesome. I think it can do it. They're going to give us a lot of training, and it's going to take some time to get it under control, but it's really neat how they can do it, and people can get on there and assess fees and collect things for different pieces, and how the money will go into certain accounts, and you get on there and hit Excel, and I can run a sort, and I can easily reconcile it in one day instead of having all the secretaries spend an afternoon doing it every day. It's just going to make it so much simpler if we can get this accomplished. So that's something we're working on as well. Again, designing a 4-signature purchasing process. I just discussed that. There will also be a 2-tiered approval process in IV going forward as well. So we're kind of double dipping on the approvals here. They'll go through a 4-tiered system, and then they'll come back. They'll enter the requisition. The building approval will approve it, and then it'll go to me and Mrs. Cody for secondary approval. So again, it'll go through. So a lot of expenditures, they'll be checked out very well before they go through to payables as requested. So. I also helped with the transportation department. I helped them create an accident reporting checklist and supported some revisions to the bus pre-inspection forms. That's something else I've done since I've been here. Program-specific work, we talked a lot about this tonight, addressing a significant deficit in the Little Beats program, reducing the shortfall by about $100,000 through schedule restructuring and reduced staffing hours, resulting in lower para and Medicare costs as well. Again, that's something moving forward that we'll figure out what everybody wants to do. Moving on to audit findings and compliance issues. Before I scare everybody, I want to just let you know, I over the years I've built a pretty good relationship with CDE, and I know the contact there. I've worked with her my entire career, and we had 6 law violations on our audit, either things that weren't caught or things that weren't completed, and they should have been done. And we were able to negotiate with CDE and basically beg for a little slap on the wrist or whatever this year. They didn't give us that. They just said, we'll work with you for a year. We know it'll be better. So we got off of everything I'm about to tell you with the exception of the food service, and I'll explain that here. We were missing reconciliation reports, the grants. For example, if we have a grant and the grant says we received $5,000 but we spent $4,000, We have to reconcile that, and we have to explain why there's a variance. Pretty simple report, it wasn't ever submitted. Yeah, it's something that should be done every year, and that's something typically the auditor does for us. I don't know what the agreement was this year, but that's something next year we'll work through. They got rid of the penalty for that. Missing management discussion and analysis, it's called MD&A form. It's usually about the first 10 to 12 pages of an audit. It usually has neat little graphs and charts and talks about all kinds of different things, from changes in assets to changes in cash position and so forth and so on, expenditures, revenues. It's basically a summary of the entire audit. That was not done this year either. And the auditor said that there's a statement in the opinion letter that said that we omitted it. CDE recognizes we omitted it. They waived that again this year, and they just said next year they have to have it. It's part of the Financial Policies and Procedures Handbook required from the state of Colorado. So I did tell Mr. Farmer that, so he's aware of that going forward, that that's something that we have to do. So we'll make sure we do that next year. I've got a couple of templates, so we'll get through that. Maintenance of effort report, special education. We did meet maintenance of effort report. This one's kind of a little goofy because it's a special ed report. You're supposed to spend $1 more each year than you did the year before. Theoretically though, if you have one student that needs to go to a treatment center or something, and they move out of district, you're not maybe gonna meet it. So there's times where we don't necessarily meet that. We did talk with Evan Davis about this after they did waive this one. I did talk to Evan Davis about it and then told him next year we'd try to meet it, and he accepted my summary. I mean, that's basically what I told him, and he agreed with that statement. That's a factual statement. Net excess cash in the food service fund. We are carrying about $1 million fund balance. We can only carry about 3 months, so which is about $300,000. So we have to spend down almost $683,000. We have to come up with a spend down plan in the next 30 days, right?
We have it scheduled to discuss on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. So it's coming. Some of the stuff we've already approached them with, they've already shot us down for, so it's going to be interesting coming up with that much money. But we cannot maintain. I know you guys were addressed that you could maintain a fund balance that high. You cannot. It's especially with federal dollars. So that's another thing that we have to adjust. That is the only thing that sticks because that's federal funds attached to it. Expenditures in excess of appropriations. The general fund, the scholarship fund, and the child care funds exceeded their authorized budgets. This is why we have to do a supplemental appropriations. I'm gonna look at the budget this year, probably here in another couple of weeks, and see what the funds are trending like, and maybe bring them back to you. If in doubt, I'm probably gonna ask you guys to do one, even if it's just a blanket amount, just so we don't have a law violation. I'm not saying we're gonna spend the money, but just saying so we have it covered for our budget. You can't overspend or what you receive. It's a law violation. So those three funds, those three technically law violations, they're statutory violations. Deficit fund balance, child care center. There is when you do the audit, there is a form, and it's called the financial accreditation report. And one of the check boxes there asks you if you have went deficit in any of your funds. The answer should have been yes. We put no. We went negative in our child care center bank or fund. So that was another violation. So, but again, we got that waived going forward. We'll just have to make sure we don't do that and do it appropriately. Fund equity account discrepancies. This is kind of a big one, and this is something we got to work through. This is, in my opinion, the biggest one here. It's not a law violation, but the fund equity that was reported, like our fund balances and our restricted, non-restricted, everything else, does not tie out to the amount that CD has on their books. So what the auditor pushed through in the pipeline on her and Sandy, I mean, I know they were at a deadline, they're trying to push things through, but it did not balance. So they might have $5 million in fund balance, and we may only have 4.5 on our books. There was a discrepancy in those numbers. So that's something this year that I have to work with the auditor on, and we're gonna have to go back to the beginning of the year and do some sort of an adjusting entry to balance that out to start, to make that work. So it's fixable, but it's something that we should make sure we did right. If we make any adjustments, it should never be to an equity account. Those need to be pretty honest. They need to be right on point. I mean, to the penny. I mean, see, they can't be off, otherwise it's a violation. Financial transparency posting. We have a financial transparency laws in the state of Colorado where certain things have to be posted on the website, and there's certain timelines to do so. at the time that they originally did this, there was a couple of things that weren't posted. We got on there that day, Bobby and I, and we got posted, so we're good there. And then our single audit, since we received over 750,000 federal grants, we'd have a single audit. There was no findings, which is positive, so that was really good. I believe they're raising the threshold this year to $1 million. We're still gonna be above it, so we'll still have to have a single audit. Like I said, based on our strong working relationship with CDE, all audit violations have been waived for the year except for the food service plan, which we're gonna work on next week. So overall, that's good news. So, few things here, general ledger and some technical challenges, balance sheet discrepancies. A lot of the balance sheets were out of balance. Some of the audit, I'm gonna have to go with the auditor, and we're gonna have to do some auditor supported adjustments. Possibly even working with Infinite Visions, because I don't know if these are auditor adjustments or if there's something with the way the system was rolled forward and it glitched out, and we might have to have engineering do like a one-sided entry to balance some of these. I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna work just quite yet, but we're still working on a few of those things. Payroll mapping errors, this was a big one. This one I about ripped my hair out on. This was the most like crazy, ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And there was, when we did a payroll entry, as you can imagine, you should have cash being debited, your cash, because that's what's coming out of it, and then everything else should be an expense. It wasn't. There was not a single cash account in the books. It wasn't even going to cash. It was going between an interfund receivable account, which basically is an account that says this fund owes this fund money, and accrual accounts, which an accrual account is basically, we have our payroll, we have to do a payroll accrual in June for our employees to get paid in July and August, because what we have to do is we have to capture all of the costs in June to end the fiscal year. So we have to suck those costs back into June, right? And then, so say it's $1 million. And then theoretically, in July, payroll's $500,000. So your accrual drops to $500,000, and then in August, another $500,000, it should be zero. No, it wasn't. It was like it was like almost $1.5 million. With our liability accounts, it was a little higher than that even. We went through there and got into the back end of the system. Not sure how I got there, but I found it.
We beat Keith.
And we got it fixed, I think. So I'm pretty sure we got it fixed, at least the majority of it. And we got it down from where I was originally gonna have to come and ask you guys for permission to do $1.5 million plug entry, which it just made me sick to my stomach because that's just unacceptable, to a little under $100,000, which is immaterial, and most of that was probably from the prior year. So again, we had to establish a baseline and move forward. So pretty sure that one's fixed. That was a huge one. I was really happy to get that one accomplished because that was a mess. Cash account variances. When I started, when we rolled the books over, some of our cash accounts were off as much as $6 million. Not saying the money wasn't there, our ledger was off $6 million. Since we went and re-rolled the system and tied into July 1st and done a few things, I've got every account reconciled on our main general fund, and I've been working on it. I've just been busy doing everything. But just without even doing any adjustments, I'm off like $27,000. So we're getting really close. We'll have that balanced here pretty quick, and that's gonna be huge. So all of our cash will be tied out for the first time in who knows how, when, honestly, and our revenues as of the end of April. So that's really good news. One of the things we're looking at doing here is the scholarship fiduciary management. We've been talking with the NOCO Foundation, exploring possibly having them act as a fiduciary for the district scholarship funds. This still remains under review. We're getting them information. They're looking into seeing how they can invest it, how they can make money, how they can do, as good a job or better than us. That's what we want. And that would just basically, what that would equate to is when we issue a scholarship, that would be a flow-through transaction. We would tell them what we need out of which account. They would send us a check, and we would just send the check out the door. So it'd be pretty easy to maintain. And I don't have this on the list, but there was a lot of records missing. So again, we had to rebuild a lot of this. So have a little mercy on me. This first audit could be a little rough. I think it's gonna be a lot better than the last one, even so, but it's still gonna be a little rough.
You came in April.
Yeah, came in April. Yeah. As we begin, and this is me being a pessimistic, CFO for you guys. This is Price Director. As we begin planning for the 26-27 school year, we must critically evaluate all expenditures, programs, and staffing levels. Address increased insurance costs. and that's across the board. That's property insurance, health insurance, everything. Plan for long-term capital investments and avoid continued reliance on the fund balance to cover. Those are my 4 big points I think we need to really do. And as a closing note, I just want to thank you guys for your support and for the opportunity to serve the students in the community. Despite several challenges, we're making significant progress in laying the groundwork for long-term financial stability, operational efficiency, and transparency. Your patience and collaboration as we implement these improvements are greatly appreciated. So that's my statement, and then I have a couple of things I'd like to go over with you. You guys have any questions on this, my statement? I'd like to go over this form real quick here. It's just a cash analysis. Again, this is an estimate. I took a lot of these numbers right off of bank statements. But one of the things that I'm asking you guys to do within this budget is I'm asking you guys to break out the general fund into a few more funds and clean it up, be a little bit more transparent, keep things a little easier. 2 funds I'm asking to open up would be Fund 41 and Fund 43. Fund 43 is going to be our capital reserve, or capital project capital reserve fund, and that's going to be where instead of housing our asset purchases, our bus purchases, our technology purchases, major building renovations, that kind of stuff, and the general fund, I would like to segregate that out into its own fund so we can track those expenses better and get those costs out of the general fund. It's a lot easier and a lot cleaner to do so. And Fund 41, we're looking to move our insurance project basically out of the general fund, our money and everything else, so we can track that one a lot better. So I think that'll make that one a lot easier to process. The whole purpose behind this cash analysis, what I wanted to show you, was up here in the right corner, you'll see a number. It's about $23 million. At the end of June, that's what I'm forecasting. And again, it's an estimate. That's what I'm forecasting the general fund will actually have as far as cash. If you look down here in July, we're going to start with $10 million. And what I'm hoping to do here is I'm hoping to take about $4.3 million over to, and I'll show you in the budget book in a minute what I'm planning on doing. But I'm hoping to take about $4.3 million over to Fund 43. The majority of that is the best grant match, just so you know. And then about $8.2 million to Fund 41. So if you look at the two, that's about what, 13 million roughly, 12.5 million, something like that. So that's why that reduces it to 10. What I wanted to really point out is at the lowest point of the year, if you go to February, right here at the bottom, that is your lowest point of cash collection in the school year. It is February. March, you get your big collections. You get a small one in April, then you usually get 2 in May and 2 in June. So May and June and March are your 3 big months. All the way through December, you don't really get much property tax collection. You're going to get probably about 5% of your entire year's budget from July through February. And then you're going to get like 90 or so percent between March and June. It's huge. So you're going to be about 3.84% with moving, or 3.84 months estimated moving this stuff over. A couple thoughts that I want to point out is rule of thumb. There's no statutory requirement as far as reserves that you need to keep, but 3 to 6 months worth of reserves is a good rule of thumb. If higher is always good as well, you know. But this dips below the high threshold. It's still above 3. So I mean, you're still above the lower end of that, but you're towards the lower end. And it also doesn't account for future economic conditions that would require CD to reinstate the negative factor or something else. We wouldn't have much reserve to play with, and you know, it would lead to some, you know, when I first started in school, I think it was like 2007, 2008, they had a situation where they came in and started doing before they called it the negative factor. I can't remember what they called it back then.
It was that, yeah. Moved to budget stabilization, right?
Yeah, budget, yeah, there you go. That's right, negative factor. They came in the first year, and I think it was like mid-year, they're like, you gotta cut 12% of your budget. I think the number was 12%, if I remember right. It was a big number. And it hurt a lot of people. Salaries were frozen for most of the schools in the state for 5+ years, and there was a lot of cuts. A lot of people were cutting programs and everything else. If you have a healthy fund balance, you can buy that away for a couple of years and absorb some of that. So just something to think about as we move forward. We don't want our fund balance to get to a point where we can't. The other piece that I don't have on here too is if we get below a certain amount of money and we can't cash flow, and then we're not at there, but if we were to continue to buy our fund balance down, we would actually have to go and borrow money. and that's a potential thing too, and I've been in that situation as well, and that's no fun, having to borrow money from the state to cash flow and pay your bills, and so just something to think about going forward. But I just wanted to show you guys that even doing the transfers that we're proposing, it puts us kind of on the relatively lower end of what I would consider an acceptable fund balance, but it would still put us in that range for now.
And I want to add to it, first, thank you for all this work. But if you look at that February and you look at the amount transferred, so those amounts transferred are not by any means reserves. They are already spoken for, board action type of things. What's not included in that 4.3 going to capital reserves are like the site plan work. So you would need another $500,000 to $750,000 to do all the paving, all that work for that site plan if you wanted to go forward. So that is not included. What is included is just listed in the preliminary budget, which Mr. Yake will go through in a minute. There's a couple pieces there's one that is listed, we went through it, I have it, that we're like, okay, this action item could pay for this, so you'll need to know that amount. What we have listed is also changing based on tonight's action items, and we'll talk about that. But I want you to hear that could dip another $1 million if you $500,000, $750,000 if you did all the things with the site plan. And then you have the storm damage work, which I'm not sure how much. I just want you to, I don't mean to paint a bleak picture, but when you're at just over 3.5 months of fund balance, you just need to be aware of that, of where we really are, because I told Keith, I also told President Chard and Mr. Miller, I'm gonna look very unpopular because our fund balance at 8.5, but that's actually what it is.
You guys pay me to be a pessimist and give you accurate figures, so that's what I'm doing, so hopefully I don't get soft after the meeting. Okay, so moving on to the budget book here, if you guys have a few seconds, I just want to give you kind of a brief overview on how to kind of read this. I mean, it should hopefully be simple. If you go to the second page, it lists out its table of contents, and it lists out exactly what is what. So you'll see on the left side, it'll list what fund it is. Fund 10 is the general fund, the whole way down. So you'll see all the Fund 10 different breakouts and what page number they fall on. Fund 21 is food fund, Fund 22 is grants, 23 is activities, 27 scholarships not in trust, 29 is Little Beats Child Care, 31 is bond fund, 41 is going to be the new building improvement insurance, 43 is the capital reserve fund, and 72 is the scholarships in trust. I also threw a copy, just for your guys' reference, of all the approved salary schedules in here, and then I threw about 60 pages of Colorado School District finance information in the back for you guys to reference if you ever want to, or whatever. Okay, moving on. I'll try to go through this relatively quick, so I know you guys got a long meeting. Next page is our preliminary budget. This is a summative sheet here. This is just our general fund. The most important thing to look at here is in the right corner. You see where it says must balance, it's highlighted. It does. So right now, this is actually a balanced budget I'm presenting to you guys, so it's statutorily legal. So we're good there. $21,153,029.81 revenue over expense. Any questions on that piece? Okay. Going to the next page here, and again, keep in mind, this will change a few times. It's already changed it changed twice today. I mean, we're still updating this as we're going to bring you guys more, but right, I had to stop somewhere and balance it so I could bring something for you to approve so we could get it going. The PPR, one of the things that we did with our, which are your property tax, your mill levy, or I'm sorry, your property tax, your specific ownership tax, and your state equalization, is how to calculate your PPR. We did this conservative in two ways. We did 97% of our estimated headcount, and we also did 97% of estimated property tax. So I think we are pretty light on there, hopefully. So if anything else, like I said, I'd rather come back to you guys in October with extra money than have to come back to you guys and tell you we're in the hole. So hopefully we go that direction, if anything. Basically, I went through and we looked at trending. I talked to some of the directors. We pulled data right out of IV. I got on the state for some of these. pulled up all the state grants. You'll see, if you look at the codes, you'll see in Fund 10, it'll say 10, then it says 0, and then it says 0, then it says 0, and then it says, you know, like, whatever the code is, 110. And then about the 6th one over, it'll start with all 3s or 4s. Those are grant codes, just so you guys know. I gotta ask that question. Those are grants. 3,000s are state grants, 4,000s are federal. So just so you guys know there. And then underneath, so if you look on the far right side under preliminary, it goes down to $21,153,029.81, which is the exact amount on the summative sheet. So that's how it ties. You'll also see here the transfer for the beginning fund balance, or to the building improvement fund and the capital reserve. We put some numbers in place there. Again, they've changed a little bit even since then, but those numbers are part of that. Part of what I just showed you in the cash flow analysis. So, any question on general fund revenues? Okay, perfect. Next page, it says 5 of 32 in the bottom. They're all of the buildings are going to be formatted the exact same way. They're going to be salaries, then benefits, and purchase services and supplies. Salaries are going to be followed with employee benefits, which is your health insurance, dental, vision, all that stuff that's covered by the district, and then your Medicare, which is 1.45% of the salary, and then your para, which is your para contributions at the bottom, which is 21.4% of the salary. So it's going to be the same across the board. So preschool, we're looking to spend $566,000 in total, and we are adding a new FTE, halftime aid, halftime family partnership. Is in there. Any questions on preschool?
Can you just explain, Keith, how you explained to Bryson and I, how you're grouping lines for employee benefits? So you're grouping by groups of employees rather than listing each employee individually?
Yeah, so like the second one down there, you know, you'll be able to follow, you know, there's groupings for different grant codes and everything else. So like if you look at, let me see here. For example, on the bottom, and I don't know why it says employee benefits, but where it says under salaries, the clear bottom one there, you'll see $8,125.89. There will be a corresponding, this one's a little tricky because it kind of doesn't look very good, but preschool, there will be a matching benefit line item, a matching Medicare line item, and a matching para line item that will correlate to that salary code, and it's all calculated. It's good? Okay. All right, so moving on, primary school. We hired a full-time, we added a full-time one-on-one, what is that?
Significant support needs.
Significant support needs, parapro. Again, salaries, benefits, purchase services and supplies. And we do, and just to notice, we did cut the supplies significantly in each of the buildings for this year. I think it was around 70,000, we cut it to 40. I don't remember exactly what they were. I think the high school was around 120, and I think it's like 70 or 75 now, and the middle school was cut significantly as well. So, so that's another thing to balance this budget out that we had to do. So anyways, we're $3.4 million total in the primary building, with everything included. Elementary school, we added a long-term sub and 2 FTEs. I think it was a third and a fourth, or fourth and a fifth?
Third and fourth.
Third and a fourth, yeah. Again, salaries, benefits, purchase services, and supplies. Any questions on that one? Okay. Middle school, this one's gonna be just a little bit different. We have salaries, benefits, purchase services, and supplies, but on the second page for supplies, you're gonna see some of the athletic accounts being moved over. That's part of the transition that we're working on, is moving the gates and the fees over to the general fund to cover actual general fund expenses for the activities. What's gonna be covered in the activity fund is it's gonna be fundraisers, donations, and small local grants attributed to certain programs. Gate fees and athletic fees will come over here, and this will buy all the supplies, the refs, that kind of stuff will come out of the general fund. So we're gonna segregate that out. And I can bring you guys some more data on that in the future, of exactly what that's gonna look like, what the plan is. moving on to the high, you guys, anything on middle school or good to go to high school? All right, high school. High school's big. There's a lot of employee benefits and payer contributions because there's a lot more, you have to code those differently, so there's a lot more coding. You'll see on the bottom of page 14, there's gonna be a lot more supplies underneath here. There's about, what is this, about $70,000 or $80,000 right here under building BHS athletics. This is to cover your officials, your game workers, your training supplies, meals, lodging, uniforms, your CHASA, huddle, league dues, and arbiter are all covered here now. And then each building, or each sport will also have its own supply account here, so. Any questions on that right now? Okay, moving on then. Central District Office here. Salaries, benefits, purchase services, most of the purchase services in the district come out of here. So, you've got your NWA assessment here, you've got your Board of Education purchase services. We increase that to $25,000 for CASB. That can include other things. We wanted a little bit of padding in that account. In case you guys want to go to some different conferences and such, potentially. Yeah, so anyways, those are your purchase services in that one. On the next page here, you got some legal services. We did budget for $200,000 in legal district-wide, but $50,000 is actually in this account. We put $150 in the building fund for the insurance claim and the lawsuits and everything that's going on there. So we put money over there. Audit services is here. PD services, that's in here as well. Other purchase services, which is like your tuition to BOCES, your post-secondary tuition, your MCC, stuff like that goes in the next column here. And then you've got your supplies here. The biggest thing I want to point out in supplies is your bottom three is Lindsay's stuff, her CETA, right? CETA stuff, okay. So you have 800 or almost, well, close to $800,000 here, $700-some thousand. So your game plan, handwriting without tears, music play online, Zinger, Blozer, I don't know if I said that right. Yep. ELA resources and pilot resources, instructional supplemental subscriptions, tech media resources, and tech budgeted resources. So that basically covers her budget.
But I want to say that that work is so important because that's closest to the students.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That is, and that's also part of our MLO. So just wanted to highlight that piece.
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically the majority of the district office is $3.2 million. It's typically a large piece like that because there's just a lot of purchase services in the central district. Next account under maintenance services. Again, salaries, benefits, purchased, other purchased. Other purchased, it's just the way that we have to code them by law. There's purchased and other purchased, the way they fall in the chart of accounts. Supplies and then equipment and non-capital equipment. We did plug $100,000 in there for non-capital equipment at the bottom. I wanted to point that out for minor repairs and stuff under a certain threshold of dollars. So we increased our energy, what we're estimating about 10% from what it was this year. What we're anticipating. So that's another increase we put in here. And then we added an event custodian supervisor, and in the revised budget, you'll see next time we added it was one or two custodial leads. So it was a smaller amount of money. It was around $8,000, just an hourly increase. Okay, going to transportation, $692,000. The biggest pieces being salary and benefits. I'm actually amazed at this. The guys do a great job, repairs, keeping the repair costs down and the supply costs down. I mean, I used to work with a district about this size, two of them in fact, and I mean, we were both 2 to 3 times higher than this easily. So our guys do a really, really good job. So they should be commended for sure. But we're about $692,000 estimated transportation cost. And there is a reimbursement to some of that through our CD40 report. I think this year we got somewhere around 120,000 approximately.
But our fleet is pretty up to date though, right? Like considering.
You'll be taking action on a bus tonight. is
Yeah,
what it's time for
but I mean,
refresh.
we've been doing that over,
Mhm.
so maybe that's why, yeah, okay.
I think we're in a lot better shape than most.
Right,
Mhm.
but I'm wondering if that's reflective of this too,
Mhm.
because the
Yeah.
fleet is up,
Up to date.
right.
It's not
Right.
old.
Yeah.
Okay,
That makes
sorry,
sense.
carry on.
No, we're good. Our Head Start program, we're looking at about $836,000 in expense there. I think the budget request that we're gonna work on tomorrow is around $850.
Mhm.
So we're looking to be about, hopefully around 20,000 in the black, give or take. So that's good news, so Head Start's pretty close. District-wide services here, I have $30,000 in for consulting services last year under where it says other professional services. You know, last year, should note saying rename this insurance claims. We had $493,000 year-to-date spent when I took this report and started it back in March. I'm transferring all that to Fund 41, so that's why it's zeroed out now. So for next year, there won't be any expenses under that line item for insurance. Same thing for hub insurance and insurance premiums. I transferred those to the insurance fund. And then workers' comp, I increased that about 10%, according to our discussion with them. So we're good there. So that concludes our general fund. So that's basically everything that will encompass our general fund. The next few pages here that I'll try to rifle through here, and we'll just have a whole lot of questions, are other funds. And I did these a little bit different. I put the revenues at the top and the expenditures at the bottom, so they're all combined into one place. Food revenues, looking at about $993,000 in revenues that we're anticipating and about $989,000 in expense, so we're about a break even. These were built numbers. I went off the audit from last year and I took the year before and I looked at average meal prices and stuff like that and just kind of did a little correlation. But again, we have a contract with the provider that basically has a net zero thing. I mean, it's a break even clause, so we should be okay. Grant revenues, right now we have 5 grants in our grant revenues. We have Title I, II, III, IV, and Carl Perkins. We're looking at about $352,000 in revenue. Down here at the bottom, I did a little chart for you because it's revenue over expense, $292,000. There was about $60,000 that we had to find out how to expense it. Since then, we have met and we have reallocated personnel around to adjust all of these. So in the next thing I'll give you, they all balance out because they're all adjusted now accordingly. That's one of the things we had to do. As a matter of fact, we just today finally got everything signed and sent over to BOCES and got our year-to-date drawn because we had like $300,000 that nobody drew so far this year, but we're gonna get it. So we did that today. So we're in good shape. Activity revenues, this is again something, this is gonna be the biggest one for me to play with for a year and figure out what these actual budget numbers need to look like, because we're going to not only be moving the athletic stuff over, but we're gonna be moving some of the classroom fee stuff over too that's in policy eventually. I just haven't got the numbers yet, so I haven't done it. So some of these numbers will definitely not be as high, some of these numbers are low. You know, this is a work in progress, the activity funds, and it's going to be just aligning to, you can ask Bradley, just aligning to the beginning fund balance. I have a list, I have a 5-page document from the auditor that says all these funds should start with this amount, it's right down the middle. And I have no basis saying that that's an accurate figure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have to trust it unless somebody can show me something else. So that's something we've been talking about working on. But he's been super busy and I've been super busy, and you know, and we just need to get this in, and then we can work on it and we can come back with something better hopefully this fall as far as starting at a better point. Hopefully, if we need to move some stuff around. There will be nothing moved out of fund equity without coming to you guys first. I'll make that an absolute promise, because I don't believe in moving equity or restricted funds around, even though these aren't really technically restricted, but we'll make sure we do that. So I would kind of like to, so for activities, if you skip down to page 26 right now, it just says total revenue over expense. Those are the estimates for the funds. I don't think it's going to be that high. It's like $432,000 for revenue and $416,000 in expense. I'm anticipating that being significantly lower because we're going to have expense coming out of the general fund, and the gates and the fees are going to go to the general fund. So both revenues and expenses should be lower. Like I said, I just want to make that real clear that this is just kind of just put together off of current what we got, so we'll have a better idea next year at this time what this will look like, and I assure you it'll be better. So, scholarships on trust, right now I'm estimating 106 out, 106 in. From what I understand, this 106 was about what actually happened in local scholarships, pretty close. I was talking to Danielle about it, that's what she told me. So we're also, again, talking to the NOCO Foundation about possibly taking some of these off of our books and running them through theirs. So that's something going forward that might be a discussion I would bring back to you guys at some point. Again, these are just estimates with the baseline runoff. Next one is our child care fund here, estimating about $720,000 in revenue, about $703,000 in expense. This is the 4-day week. This is the presentation we talked about earlier. This is where we're at. So, however you guys want me to adjust this, just let me know. I can bring you guys a 4 and a 5 day next year and see what that looks like. You know, I mean, obviously it's going to be around 100,000 more, and it's not a problem to do that. I mean, I could bring both if you guys wanted me to do that, or you could vote one of these in and we could adjust it later on in the year too. I mean, that's the nice thing about the budget is we can adopt a revised budget just about any time. So, but that's where I am as of today, based on our work that we've done. Bond fund. Right now, we're looking to collect about $3.5 million. This is an estimate. I have not seen the assessed valuation. The preliminary assessed valuation doesn't even come out until about August. And then we have to have the final assessment and the certification in by December 15th. Those are the deadlines for it, so I won't actually know. These are just basically last year's numbers, and I roll them forward. I actually have the chart, the amortization chart that shows what our payment is, so the payment's accurate. I just don't know how much the revenue is going to be, but it is significantly higher at this rate based on our current assessment. So one of the good things about this right now is that the assessed values were to drop or plummet or whatever, you guys still have a good grip and a good basis to still pay this bond off early. So that'll look good and good stewards of the money. Another thing that I'll do is I'll put it on my calendar annually to look at refinancing, just to see what the rates look like and see if it's within our better interest to refinance and, you know, save another 6 months or a year off of payments. You know, it's worked out pretty well in the past to do that, so that's something I'll do for you guys as well. Next page is the building improvement insurance fund. As you see at the top, it's $8.2 million over $8.2 million, or almost 8.3. You'll see that there's a transfer from the general fund of about $8,115,000, and then additional insurance proceeds, you know, $150,000. That's what we're anticipating if there is additional work, supplements, things like that. They always use a little bit extra, so we plug some of that in. Under expenditures, we plugged in the 7.465, which is about what's left on the scope of work to do. $650,000 for the insurance premiums and deductible buy down. What we did, we still don't have a number from the insurance company. So right now, our insurance for our building insurance is about $100,000. Is that piece of the insurance for the property liability insurance? We doubled it with the thought that we talked to them. They said they couldn't give us numbers. They weren't sure. And I asked the lady directly. I said, if we double it, she goes, oh, it shouldn't go up that much. She's like, so we doubled it. That's the best guess we can do right now. I mean, we're working through it. Mrs. Cody's been firing out emails trying to get it figured out, and we don't have an answer yet. So she's been working hard though. I know that.
But to be clear, are you talking about building insurance?
Property
Yeah.
insurance.
Property insurance.
So to be clear, we don't actually have a property insurance company identified yet.
As of
Correct.
right now, you're correct.
Right, so that's something we still have to secure.
We did reach out to this Carlisle School, SIDSIP, Carlisle School District Self-Insurance Pool. We are too late in the process for the year for them to quote us, but they will quote us in October and give us a quote. I also reached out to USI and to Wells Fargo, and they told me the same thing. So we're basically stuck with HUB and what they come back with. We'll have more options next year to potentially look at. So we'll be doing that as well in the fall and the spring. The other thing we have here is our deductible buy down. There's like $220,000 figured into that $650 for that insurance deductible buy down as well. That's why it's so big. And then legal, we have $150,000 plugged in there for legal. Hopefully it's not that high, but it's there.
Never know.
Is everybody good with that? And like I said, the biggest reason for this fund is just to segregate this out of the general fund and just get it out of there, get the money out so they're not commingling. You know, I'm just planning on putting this in a high interest bearing account until we start spending money and get as much interest on it as we can. So that's the plan. Next one, we're almost there, I promise, guys. Building improvement insurance. Val, this should say capital. I messed up. I made a mistake. This should say capital reserve, capital project fund, Fund 43. You'll see here at the bottom here, you'll see some of the things that we're looking to do, and they'll have a number corresponding beside it. Then you'll see under revenues, you'll see the numbers to the left, or to the right, I'm sorry, like it starts with 11 and 2, 8, 9, 12. I'm just showing you kind of where I bundled all those expenditures into the expense line items. Hopefully you guys are following me.
Far right, you're talking, very
Yeah,
far,
that
okay,
makes sense.
I see them now, sorry,
Okay.
took me a second.
The $4 million is a transfer to the general fund, and then there's $2.3 million in additional revenue coming in from the BEST grant. That is above it's like a $5.1 million project. Our match is $2.8 million, which you'll see down here where it says BEST match. The 2.3 will be coming in as revenue, because that will be the match the money they give us. And then as you'll see under capital building improvement, where it says 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, it is actually number 14. So out of that 2.701 million is that 2.3 million in expense. I just want to show how it comes in and then it goes out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're looking, if we were to spend everything and do everything in its entirety this fiscal year, we would basically be budgeting 6.3 million in revenue and expensing 6.3 million.
And I want to talk about just a couple of these,
Okay.
just so you're aware of what this will look like. If the board approves the back parking light at TPS, right now it shows 10,000. That's actually, you probably noticed, 16,356. So that's above. However, the Beaver Valley exterior doors came in under at $21,054. So that will be under. And then the bus came in under at $145,984. Again, notice that you do have that expansion of Beat Digger Drive, but there's another piece that we'll probably put in there. So it's not the site plan pieces are not included. Okay. Oh, that was it. I just remembered. I just didn't write my notes. Sorry. If you look at the chiller, it says 50,000, but the chiller came in at 76,000.
Yep.
76,000. So that would be that 30 plus the 50 could take care of the compressor.
I can't remember if I asked you this the other day or not, but do the Beaver Valley cafeteria tables qualify under a
No, I
food service buy down?
asked.
They don't, and the greenhouse doesn't
I
either.
asked about the greenhouse too, yeah.
That's disappointing,
But
isn't it?
equipment inside
You
the
use it.
greenhouse,
Yeah,
good.
we talked to Liza
Supplies
Johnson,
inside.
the head lady,
Yeah.
and she gave us it. Marcia's like, yeah, let's get that greenhouse covered. They won't
But you
allow
said
it.
equipment inside good?
Supplies.
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 Things
the
inside
greenhouse,
it.
good.
To
Yeah.
grow things.
Grow food.
Grow food.
So does
Okay.
anybody have any questions
Go
though
on.
on the preliminary
Food to
piece of
grow.
this right now, or does this somewhat make sense? I know it's a lot.
No, I'm extremely happy to see this. This is stuff we've been asking for a long time, especially Mr. Miller, and this is so comprehensive. I'm
Good.
blown away. Thank you for your hard work.
Oh, no problem. And here's the other cool thing about this. Let me get through my last page, flip over one more time.
Okay.
We have 3 scholarships that are in a trust fund for about $2,000 in expense. So that's it. And then right behind here is about 5 or 6 pages of salary schedules for reference, and then like I said, some CDP information based on, just if you guys want to get really, really bored and can't sleep and you want to read about this, you can do that. One thing I want to point out that's really neat about the budget, the way I put it together, is I actually built the budget off of your operating statement. So I took your operating statement, all the charter accounts, and I manipulated it, and that's how I built it. So when I'm done, the budget's going to be pretty close to tying up with your operating statement, so you should be able to correlate the two of those together going forward. So that should hopefully be nice. Other than that, I think I took up a lot of time, so I don't think I have anything else unless you guys got anything for me.
That's the longest 15 minutes I've ever.
Hey, we did 3 hours the other night.
That was the summary.
It was, and I want to share with the board the extensive amount of hours that I'm sure you can tell. that Mr. Yate has put into our school district since March, the day after, or the night of, like, that we hired him in March, that you hired him. He has. It's been a blessing to us that his wife Stephanie has not been able to join him yet. You know, his oldest daughter is graduating soon, and so they're still up in Washington. But my hope is that when he comes back, he's not working these, you wouldn't believe the number of hours. He came into the office yesterday, and I bet you sent me 12 emails yesterday. So this is all he's done for a long time, and that first part that he was talking about, the budget and the reconciling, the amount of work and all, you know, that went into that, and the back end of the mapping, when we brought in an expert from CBOCES that has done school finance, and I don't know if we want to quote him, but we're like, okay, help us understand why it's going into like 5 different accounts. Like, it was just the weirdest thing. And all of our payroll, every single time they entered somebody, and he's like, I don't know, just like blow it up, start over again. Like, it was just, we reached out to other CFOs and superintendents that used IV, because we're like, our mapping on IV is a hot mess. I mean, that's a nice academic term, but that's what I want you to understand is, like, then he went back into the system, and I was over, I think at Thompson, or maybe I was at the secondary campus last week or something, and he sends me a text, I did it, I fixed it, like, you know, he manipulated, got into the mapping, and that was huge.
Yeah.
So he's for a lot of
Just
hours.
please be patient. Like I said, I think things are going really good. I think they're going the right direction. We've got a lot done, but we got a long ways to go, and it's going to take me to get through at least one audit just to get our fund balances and stuff straight. So, but we'll get there.
You'll have grace. I believe this board is, I speak for them, I speak for myself. I'm sure they feel the same way, though, that this is much more comprehensive than what we've seen. Just be transparent with us. If you run into an issue, or, hey, this is gonna be, you know, wonkier than what I thought, just be honest. I think we've enjoyed so far what we've seen, so.
Well, I think we've got some really good processes and procedural changes coming forward your way. It might not make me the most popular guy on campus, but I think it's gonna do what we need it to do, and I think that it's gonna help out our people, and I think it's gonna not only hold some people accountable, but at the same time, I think it's going to protect them as well. So, I'm excited to get some of those things put in place and get moving on those as well.
And I know we've gone past the time, but I wanna say this is really important, is it is a mindset shift, it will be. There is a mindset that we have all this money and that we can purchase whatever, and I need you to see, you know, that is not the case. And we need to be fiscally conservative. We do have some maintenance work that we need to do. We still have a bunch of exterior doors at Beaver Valley. There's a large window door over there. There's carpet that needs to be done. We don't know about the insurance. We have the site over at the secondary campus. You have those pieces, and Mr. Yate mentioned this, but the biggest thing is student outcomes, right? What is closest to the student, and retaining high quality staff. And if we spend money on things that we don't absolutely need, then we can't raise salaries and do benefits the way we really want to do and to retain the staff. And what's nice is we have a generous community that has given us an MLO. And so all of our goal is to make sure we're making the best use of that to retain staff and to get closest to the student. That is it. And I saw a meme, and I'll end with this, and maybe I shouldn't see meme, but this was just one, is that it showed two guys. One invested $10 a day into McDonald's stocks. One spent $10 a day at McDonald's buying a cheeseburger. Seems very insignificant, right? $10, investing $10. But within a very short amount of time, the impact of those $10 was huge, the amount of debt and the amount of revenue. And that's where we've just got to watch. It's not that we want to really spend a whole lot of time that we don't have signing all the vouchers and doing that. That's not it. It's saying, be mindful, plan ahead. Do you really need that? And it's just changing practices and making sure we're all on board so that we're spending money on the right thing, retaining staff and student outcomes. And that's like doing the tech review. Do we really, really need that subscription? Do you really, really, really need it? If not, cut it. If we have two doing the same thing, why do we have both? Those type of things. Just being a little bit more frugal, a little more conservative. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments or feedback you wanna give me later, email me or, you know, I can, give you my phone number, call or text anytime. Not a problem.
He's probably here. He's probably working.
Thank you. Next item of business, 6, executive session. Is there a motion to enter an executive session?
I, Lacey Garrett, move that the Board of Education retire into executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, Section 4, subsection A, to discuss the status of negotiations regarding the potential purchase of a parcel of land north of the Brush Secondary Campus owned by U.S. Federal Properties, LLC. Those present shall be members of the Board of Education. The board may also include Mrs. Marcia Cody and Mrs. Lacey Smith.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to enter executive session. Is there any debate? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Totally?
Aye.
Mr. Winchester?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye, motion passes. We'll move to Mrs. Cody's office.
I might go, just go.
I might need both.
9:08 PM, and the executive session is concluded, and we return to the open meeting. Participants in the executive session were Mrs. Lacey Garrett, Mrs. Brandy Hanson, Mr. Bryson Miller, Mr. Sean Tadalini, Mr. Derek Winsheimer, Mr. Paul Chard, Mrs. Marcia Cody, and Mrs. Lacey Smith. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Hearing none, the executive session is concluded, and I will ask Mrs. Garrett to report on the executive session.
Board of Education went into executive session to discuss status of negotiations regarding potential purchase of a parcel of land north of the Brush Secondary Campus.
And in the interest of consistency, is there a motion to return to open session?
Make a motion to return to open session.
Second.
So moved and seconded to return to open session. Any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Winchemmer,
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
All right. Motion passes. We are now in open session and going to take a 5-minute recess. Is your headache back? Good, Lacey. Next item of business, 7, community comment. There is no community comment at this time. Next item of business, item 8, opening of the Morgan Pruitt water share bids. Mrs. Cody, would you like to lead us in that process?
Absolutely, and Ms. Smith is going to open the bids. She'll read them out loud, the entity and the amount. And then as a board, you can discuss it, and then there'll be an action item later on this evening.
How many total do you have?
3.
Upper Platte and Beaver Canal Company, $500.
Do you want me to just pass this down?
You wouldn't.
Hillrose Irrigation District, $726.15. Daniel Kendrick, $2,400.
And again, that's an action item, so
Yep.
motion can be made at the end.
Yep.
Any questions or? Okay.
All right, next item of business, superintendent's report.
All right. I will not spend forever going through it all. You have it right in front of you. You'll see the action items, but nothing that I do not believe there is an action item that you're not aware of. I'll just state it for public record. You'll take action on the design builder, the commissioning agent. The TPS back parking lot is up for you to take action on. The BSC chiller compressor, and Mr. Lorenzini is recommending going with Johnson Controls. That is for a total of $78,500. The Beaver Valley exterior doors that are by the kitchen and by the cafeteria. And establishing, as Mr. Yake explained, Fund 22, Fund 29, Fund 41, and Fund 43. Just a note, Fund 41 is a sub-fund in the Capital Reserves Fund. It is considered a capital reserve / building fund. That's how they're set up. It's in 41 of 43. But it is all in the possible motion. You will notice also an action item in the bus driver salary schedule. There is a line at the bottom of the salary schedule that just states what has been in practice for a long time, which is paying route drivers their route driver pay when they're taking activity trips. Mr. Yake and I are going to work on that because we would rather just, if we're going to do that, increase salary rather than doing the double pay. So you probably will see this again in the future, just warning you, but we wanted the board to be aware of what the practice was. So just putting that there. Another is sub-pay, very similarly, we just want to put it in front of the board. It's just the practice that's currently taking place, except for classified staff, when they had subs, we didn't have a rate established, so there it is. $15 is to take care of the increase in minimum wage starting in January of 26. The Morgan Pruitt water lease that we just opened up the bids for, moving Little Beats from 5 days to 4 days, Little Beats tuition increase. removing a signer from the bank accounts, the purchase of a bus, the food service contract, and then you have the Head Start contract. You will see the MOU probably for Aero Lab, that's Falcon Aero Lab, in June. I did meet with the person who'll be providing those classes. Her name's Debbie, really neat lady. We had a great conversation, and so we're moving forward with that. I'll continue to keep you up to date. Ninja One replaces Atera and Viper, which are remote access programs for our technology department to use to access computers remotely, and also the antiviral. Again, that's replacing Viper that we purchased this year, and Atera.
Can I ask on that,
Mhm.
what's the difference on how that's gonna impact our budget?
If it's okay, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Murphy, because he
Sure.
can describe that length. He's typed it up, and he's told me 3 times.
Just
5
curious
times.
if it's a net gain or more
It's
expensive.
a net increase of, factoring in probable increase in cost of our current solutions, probably an increase of about $700 to $1,000. But we will be gaining additional functionality like a terabyte of workstation backup for disaster recovery, which we do not currently have. And Sentinel-1 is just a much better review product compared to Viper. G2, which is like a professional reviewing service where IT professionals review. Viper has a 4.3, Sentinel-1 has a 4.7 rating. So it's just a much better product. I've spent better part of 3-4 months demoing 3 different replacements of Viper. This was the one I liked the most. So, and we were able to get it at a steep discount when we bundled it with Ninja One. It is normally $80 per device per year. We're getting that about broke it down into monthly, so it's about $6.66 per month. Sentinel-1 is we're getting Ninja One and Sentinel-1 bundled together, $5.25 a month per device. So.
Cool. Thank you.
The other committee that met, we've already talked about Meet and Confer at DAC. The other one was 1338. So we reviewed the mid-year process and asked staff about what were the strengths and what were our opportunities for growth. And so we're working on addressing those recommendations. So that will be coming in the coming school year. Personnel report is in front of you. As far as legal, you'll see that there was an action item asking you to allow me to go into a tolling agreement. The complaint with Rocky Mountain has been filed. Questions? Was that fast or what?
Good job.
All right. Any questions on any of that, though? I'm happy to answer. All right. So then going into first reading of policies, and I have them up on the screen. Oops. As well. So I want to just talk briefly about these. I did warn that this would take just a moment. Let me get to the right one here. So the first one is policy GBGH, and you'll see that we just struck the parent policy. All of these did go to Meet and Confer. We did talk about all of these policies at length. They provided feedback at that meeting. I did revisions to all of the policies, sent that back out to Meet and Confer, and then they responded back. So these have gone through Meet and Confer. And this first one, I'm going to scroll down here, is to clarify the sick bereavement bank. It is one that we received a lot of feedback from to Meet and Confer over the past year, just concerns and questions about it. So this is to clarify it, but it is clarified in much greater detail in the regulation, which we'll see in just a moment. The other piece that has been added to GBGH is this Donate a Day program for employees to provide care for an ill member of their immediate family or to address their own sickness when they've exhausted all available leave. This also is addressed a little bit more in the regulation, but the key piece here is that request goes to the HR payroll specialist. She's the only person who can send that email out to all staff. She will verify that that employee has exhausted all of their leave. Then that one request can go out from Ms. Redden, will go out, and then employees can donate up to 2 days in a calendar or a school year. And again, these are first reading, we'll discuss them at the June 2nd board meeting. So this is the regulation, GBGHR, so this goes into detail about that sick bereavement bank policy. That's where, like I said, there were a lot of questions. Key pieces are that came up that I'll highlight really quickly are every single employee, when they are hired by Brush School District, will automatically participate in the sick bank unless they opt out. They'll have until October 1st or 30 days after hire to opt out. And then that will remain. They'll be a part of the sick bank unless they choose to opt out. Unless the sick bank drops below 100 days in our bank, and at that time, then we would ask all employees to re-enroll in the next school year. And again, it would be the same thing. Everybody would donate a day unless we opt out. Another key piece is who's on the committee. So you can read these regulations. This regulation is the committee. So just clarifying who is on the committee. Again, clarifying the Donate a Day program and how that's used, who's eligible, who's not, and how that is taken care of as well. And again, we'll talk about this at length on June 2nd during second reading. The third one here is the opt-out form, and that's just, it would be an exhibit, GBGHE. It's the exhibit for that policy. So this is what they would use, and they would need to send it to HR payroll by October 1st again. And then the last one in first reading that we're presenting tonight is policy GDD. This is revising the 12-month staff vacations and holidays. Key changes here that you'll see is that this, and let me clarify, 12-month employees would be 260, 240, 220s. Those are the employees that work 12 months. That's mainly district office staff, and not just mainly, it is district office staff and maintenance, custodial, and tech. Those are our year-round. So what this would do is say that you do receive some vacation at the start when you start at the beginning, because you sometimes do need to use a vacation day. And then it talks in a little bit how that comes about. And then it changes that you get that third week not after 10 years, but after 5. So you'll see that as well. The other piece is saying adding December 26th to December 30th as vacation. So there is that one. All right, the policy is up for second reading and discussion tonight. You have several. The first is GICDE. This is the continuing education exhibit. This is just the exhibit that accompanies our GCID policy, so the application. Questions on GCIDE, the application? We just wanted to put in front of you what the application would be that they would complete. Right. Next one is ICICA. This is the policy that this one and GBGG are like your best friends this year. It's like a thing, just keeps coming. You think you're done and then you're not done. So this one is adding a final, hopefully another bullet that says existing district online school or program. This is so that we can count our online program. And then it clarifies down below that for an online school or program, attendance purposes, contact time may be tracked in the following ways, and that list it. Questions on this one? All right. Next one is the regulation to IHCDAR. This is again changing counselor to principal or designee. And then it added, and I talked about this last month, so I don't know how much you want me to talk about it again.
I feel like I get a double dose of being confirmed. It's like I can quote these policies by now.
Questions on that one? right. And then we have IKF. This was the one that Mr. Bass was going to stay till after the executive session. I really did. I said, you need to go home. So this would reduce the number of credits required from 52 to 48. That comes to you because they're moving to a 7-period day from an 8. It has the years here. There was a question about, gosh, what about this year's freshmen in science? That did go to the leadership team at secondary campus, and they had a conversation. They said because the freshmen haven't created a 4-year plan for their classes, they only plan for their freshman year, that they felt like they wouldn't have any trouble getting those science classes taken care of. However, if the board wants them to start that with the incoming freshmen and make it the class of 2029, he could take that back, Mr. Basket, to the SLT. So that's, but as it is, it would be for this would start the 48 credits with the class of 2027 and beyond. That part would start, and then you can see the additional science credits would start with the class of 2028, which is this year's current freshman.
So I reached out to Marcia with just a concern on that with having a freshman student now. I was concerned that our current freshmen may have a difficult time getting 6 science credits, not knowing that their first year. I don't know how many freshmen took a science class this year, but if you didn't take a science class this year, you're going to have to take 2 semesters every year after to meet this. So I asked the question. They all felt like that was entirely possible.
And are we certain that that doesn't affect those other classes that you take, like art and
electives?
Electives, thank you. Holy cow.
It's late.
So, like my primary concern, would be like ag classes and stuff that.
Does it dip in?
But I mean,
There actually was some discussion about there's actually some of the ag classes that qualify as a science credit.
Ag science.
And then the other piece was that I believe he said juniors. They're gonna have less opportunity to have an exempt for juniors, so they'll have quite a bit more time on their hands to take a real class. So, but to answer your question, I think they have all went through. I'm confident that thought process has been thoroughly gone through.
I would agree. Any other questions on IKF? Okay, GBGAB, this is one that we paused in second reading. That was due to getting staff trained to teach the in-person first aid training. We are about there, both Miss Spiker and Mr. Acosta. Sorry, I'm tired too. Names, and then a third party has also agreed to help provide training. We're going to have some classes this summer, actually, just to start. Nobody's required, it's just going to be offered to get this going, but we extended the date from 2027 to 2028, just to give us more time to put this into place. And now that we have a really clean budget with the preliminary budget, I feel more confident, like, okay, yes, we can do this. I was a little bit leery of adding any type of expense when I first introduced this, if you recall, because I just didn't know where we were. I feel very confident with where we are and know at least where the question marks still are. All right, questions about GBGAB? All right, then our favorite policy, GBGG. The only one that beats this one is ICICA. But this is the king that has been and had the most conversations and been on my board report the longest. So key pieces since you last saw this. It actually still is 88 hours. What you didn't know is that that went back and forth between 11 days and 88 hours, but feel confident with that. Another key piece here was a big question why we were in pause was this piece, and that was because we can't double dock based on our legal counsel, so what do we do? And then there was this concern about, gosh, if we're docking a day's pay, which is their rate, their daily rate of pay if they miss a PD day, that's painful. So ended up, really appreciated the conversation with Mr. Miller and then meet and confer. What we landed with was this last sentence, which says absences for professional development days will be docked 1 day of pay at employee's daily rate for each day they're absent. And this was Mr. Chart too, President Chart. They are absent after employee has missed 2 professional days within a contractual year without a medical excuse. So, so we were able to refine that. So after 2 missed professional development days, then it will be a day's wage docked. Because then there's a trend, but that gives them 2 days within a contractual year to miss. Questions on that one? That was probably the biggest change.
Don't.
Some change in language here to shall be in the. Separation benefits, some clarity, changed just a couple of language here. This was from, is a meet instead of qualifications. Separation benefits. This one right here, Keith, Mr. Yake is doing a cost analysis. He started on it this afternoon, but I don't know if you saw my email earlier. I haven't checked, so I will report that back to the board by June 2nd.
Can I explain why?
Absolutely.
So, that change represents 3 to 4 times higher payout for most teachers, because we went from $50 per day to 60% of their hourly rate.
Which is
So
like 180.
it goes from 50 to $175 to $200 depending on the teacher.
What are you referring to?
Under the separation benefits, the old policy read $50 per day is what.
60% of hourly rate or $25 an hour, whichever is less.
Yep.
So it would $25, so it would be.
Maximum of $25.
No, per hour.
Per hour.
Times 8.5 hours.
But it is, which is less. So
Most
max
of
they
most
can
of our
get.
teachers are quite a bit less, or somewhat less than that.
Mhm.
So your per day is $175 to $200 now in this current change versus 50 prior. So I requested Keith to do a cost analysis on that and see what that really would look like.
So what we have to do that is we're looking at which employees, how many days they have. And the max you can do it is up to $3,000 is the maximum payout on that.
Which is a lot of days.
I don't anticipate.
Up under
meeting.
distribution, under full-time employees, do we not want that to be in hours rather than days to match the allocation?
Tell me again where you're talking, right, Mr. Miller?
So, up towards the top, under your original paragraph, purpose, full-time employees, you got maximum annual allocation 88 hours, but then distribution schedule is still in days rather than in hours.
Gotta go down.
Down. Full-time.
Oh, here. Back from the old one. Thank you. We'll get that fixed.
And then change your. You said you'll get that fixed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Or we could just put it there in hours. It'd be easier, but as long as I can do it over here. Cause that little keyboard is a little tricky. And doing it backwards. All right, any other notes on that? Okay, I'll come back to this. You don't need to see me do that. You don't want to. And then IHCDA, I mean, you're welcome to, but I can do it here live. Concurrent enrollment, this policy is ready for your approval this evening. And that is all.
Any questions? Next item of business, 10.1, design builder. Is there a motion for item 10.1?
Move to approve BBD G2 as the design builder for the TPS HVAC Best project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve BBD G2 as the design builder for the TPS HVAC Best project. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.2, commissioning agent. Is there a motion for item 10.2?
I move to approve Group 14 as the commission agent for the TPS HVAC Best project.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Group 14 as the commissioning agent for the TPS HVAC Best project. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.3, BBD light quote. Is there a motion for 10.3?
I move to approve the installation of a light for the TPS back parking lot at a cost of $16,356.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the installation of a light for the TPS back parking lot at a cost of $16,356. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
Aye. Next item of business, 10.4, BSC chiller compressor. Is there a motion for item 10.4?
Move to approve the purchase of the Johnson Controls chiller and oil separator for a total cost of $78,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the Johnson Controls chiller and oil separator for a total cost of $78,000. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chard.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.5, Beaver Valley door replacement. Is there a motion for item 10.5?
I move to approve the replacement of the cafeteria external doors at Beaver Valley for $21,054.51.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the replacement of the cafeteria external doors at Beaver Valley for $21,054.51. Is there any debate?
I see that it said that those are hollow doors. Is that pretty common? There's no insulation or nothing in them then, or?
I would imagine so, just because of the weight on the hinges, but I don't know. That would be a question for Jamie,
I was just
but I
curious.
could find out.
Any
And
other?
this- Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a good time to ask those questions because we're trying it out with the cafeteria and kitchen doors before we do more doors there at Beaver Valley, so great question.
Any other debate?
It said they were hollow, right? In the one
Mhm.
that I read, yeah.
Yeah, you would just assume if they're exterior doors, that they're exterior doors,
That's what I thought, but
right?
yeah.
But
I even went as far as safety. I mean, you think they'd be something in there so they can't get in quite as easy? I don't know. I was looking at a couple different things, but.
So just quickly search that, the definition that hollow metal doors are made of channel reinforced steel sheets filled with insulation materials such as polystyrene, craft honeycomb, or polyurethane.
I just want to clarify that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good call.
I think that's the term they use for those. Is there any other debate? So it's been moved and seconded to approve the replacement of the cafeteria external doors at Beaver Valley for $21,054.51. There is no further debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye, motion passes. Next item of business, 10.6, Fund 22, Governmental Grants Fund. Is there a motion for item 10.6?
I move to open a bank account for Fund 22, Governmental Grants Fund at Bank of Colorado.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to open a bank account for Fund 22, Governmental Grants Fund at Bank of Colorado. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye, motion passes. Next item of business, 10.7, Fund 29, Little Beats. Is there a motion for item 10.7?
Move to open a new bank account for Fund 29 at Bank of Colorado.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to open a new bank account for Fund 29 at Bank of Colorado. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye, motion passes. Now a big one. 10.8, Fund 41, Insurance Fund. Is there a motion for item 10.8?
I move pursuant to and in accordance with C.R.S. 22-45-101 and all that follows, that all sums received to date and to be received in the future from Selective Insurance Company for the school district's 2023 hail damage claim be transferred, placed, or otherwise deposited in a special account of the Capital Reserve Fund Building Fund to be called the Insurance Storm Damage Account, from which all repairs or additions to school district buildings attributable to the hailstorm shall be paid from said account, and further, that all expenses and costs incurred in obtaining sums from Selective, including but not limited to public adjuster fees, expert fees, consulting fees, contracting fees, legal fees, and other expenses, be paid from the said insurance storm damage account and new bank account at Bank of Colorado for Fund 41 Insurance Fund.
Oh, second.
It's been moved and seconded pursuant to and in accordance with CRS 22-45-101 et sec, that all sums received to date and to be received in the future from Selective Insurance Company for the school district's 2023 hail damage claim be transferred, placed, or otherwise deposited in a special account of the Capital Reserve Building Fund to be called the Insurance Storm Damage Account, from which all repairs or additions to school district buildings attributable to the hailstorm shall be paid from said account, and further, that all expenses and costs incurred in obtaining sums from Selective, including but not limited to public adjuster fees, expert fees, consulting fees, contracting fees, legal fees, and other expenses be paid from said insurance storm damage account and new bank account at Bank of Colorado for Fund 41 Insurance Fund. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Totolini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.3, Fund 43, Capital Reserve Fund. Is there a motion for 10.9?
I move that there be established a capital reserve fund into which shall be placed or otherwise deposited at the discretion of the board from time to time funds for payment of the school district's other capital improvements now and in the future, and a new bank account at Bank of Colorado for Fund 43, the Capital Reserves Fund. I further move that the Board of Education's decision in February 2025 to place $8.3 million in a yet-to-be-established capital reserve fund be modified as set forth in this motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that there be established a capital reserve fund into which shall be placed or otherwise deposited at the discretion of the board from time to time funds for payment of the school district's other capital improvements now and in the future, and a new bank account at Bank of Colorado for Fund 43, the Capital Reserve Fund. I further move that the Board of Education's decision in February 2025 to place $8.3 million in a yet-to-be-established capital reserve fund be modified as set forth in this motion. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.10, bus driver salary schedule. Is there a motion for 10.10?
I move to approve the bus driver salary schedule as revised.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bus driver salary schedule as revised. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.11, substitute rates. Is there a motion for item 10.11?
I move to approve the substitute rates as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the substitute rates as presented. Is there any debate?
Sorry, who was the second?
Bryson.
Bryson, okay, sorry.
You're good.
It's a lot.
There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.12, Morgan Pruitt water share lease. Is there a motion for item 10.12?
I move that Brush School District lease one share of the Morgan Pruitt Reservoir Company to Dan Kendrick for the sum of $2,400 for the 2025 irrigation season.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Brush School District lease one share of the Morgan Pruitt Reservoir to Dan Kendrick for the sum of $2,400 for the 2025 irrigation season. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.13, Little Beats. Is there a motion for 10.13?
I move that Little Beach Child Care be approved to reduce the length of its week from 5 days to 4 days effective July 1st, 2025.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Next item of business, 10.14. Little Beats tuition. Is there a motion for 10.14?
I move to approve the Little Beats tuition rates as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Little Beats tuition rates as presented. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.15, Head Start contract. Is there a motion for 10.15?
I move to approve the Head Start continuation grant.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Head Start continuation grant. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.16, Rush School District bank accounts.
move to remove Sandy Markvica from all Brush School District bank accounts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove Sandy Marvichka from all Brush School District bank accounts. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.17, bus quote.
I move to approve the purchase of a new school bus for $145,984.00.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of a new school bus for $145,984. Is there any debate?
I just want to make sure and clarify, I apologize, I didn't get this question sent over today, but this bus aligns with a described equipment renewal process.
It's part of his transportation plan.
Okay, just want to make sure we're being consistent with those requirements across all departments.
And I can send that out to the board too.
Any other debate? There's no further debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.18, food service contract.
I move to approve the food service contract with Chartwells for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the food service contract with Chartwells for the 2025-2026 school year. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.19, Ninja One. Is there a motion for 10.19?
I move to approve the tech subscription to Ninja One for $15,574.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the tech subscription to Ninja One for $15,574. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.20, personnel report.
Move to approve the personnel report as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel report as presented. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.21, selective tolling agreement. Is there a motion for item 10.21?
I move that the superintendent be given the authority to execute a tolling agreement with Selective Insurance Company under terms and conditions that she believes are in the best interest of the school district in order to avoid the necessity of filing a civil action against Selective before the second anniversary of the hailstorm on June 28, 2023, and further to advise the Board of Education as soon as the tolling agreement has been executed by both parties.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the superintendent be given the authority to execute a tolling agreement with Selective Insurance Company under terms and conditions that she believes are in the best interest of the school district in order to avoid the necessity of filing a civil action against Selective before the second anniversary of the hailstorm on June 28, 2023, and further to advise the Board of Education as soon as the tolling agreement has been executed by both parties. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Wincheimer,
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, 10.22, policies.
I move that BOE policy IHCDA be granted final approval and that policies GBGAB, GBGG, GICDE, ICICA, IHCDAR, and IKF be presented for third and final reading at the next regular board meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that BOE policy IHCDA be granted final approval and that policies GBGAB, GBGG, GICDE, ICICA, IHCDA-R, and IKF be presented for third and final reading at the next regular board meeting. Is there any debate? There is no debate. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini,
Aye.
Mr. Winchemmer,
All right.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item of business, information items. Do you want to talk about those? What?
Great, thank you. So we'll have a work session on June 2nd. That'll be for my evaluation. I'll send you information about that. Also board goals, that'll be a piece of that. And then we'll have a special board meeting. We can either do it before or at the end. The question is, would you rather start that at 5 or 5:30? 5:30?
On the second, right?
On the 2nd, it's a Monday, I believe.
5:30.
And then the next regular board meeting will be on June 23rd at 6 p.m.
Very good. Next item of business, 12.1. Mrs. Cody, do you have any clarifications of anything that occurred during this meeting or any next steps that we need to mention?
I think about Little Beats, so I'll be getting with Kendra and Keith. We'll come up with a plan to report back to the board soon.
Does any board member have any clarifications? Did any board member hear anything during this meeting that you feel needs to be addressed in policy? Are there any items that should be added to a future meeting? There is no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
Right at 10 o'clock. Derek, we did it.
What, you had 10 o'clock, Peg? You did.
I did too, actually.
I told Lynn it's not gonna be here than 10, yeah.
Yeah,
He's like 10, I'm like, you haven't seen the list of actions.
I was like, I'm gonna be quick,
Because I
Derek. I'm gonna be
present
quick. I'm gonna
the
go through my
water
superintendent's report.